their portal.
Mic check 1 2.
Is
Sorry.
the choice So welcome everybody. And if you would join us please in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
The materials have been added.
Okay,
Is it
I didn't see, maybe I missed it.
Exceptional Children Board updates?
Oh, it says Quinlan, okay. No?
Yeah, Quinlan's doing both of those.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, we're gonna get started this morning, and we are happy to have NC Peak Education with us today to share an update on our strategic plan. So if they would come forward. They're on. Oh, okay, well, there you go.
Morning.
Good morning. Thanks for being with us today.
I'm trying to fix that. Ms. Bullard, do you have, I want to make sure that, let me see. Melanie, can you say something to see if that was fixed?
Good morning.
There we go.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us today.
'Cause it was
Sure, thanks for having me. It's hopefully the weather's going to cooperate for a while now.
Yes, ma'am, we hope so. We sure hope so. So you wanted to share with us about our strategic plan today, our updates.
Yes, I did. So Dr. Reinhardt is supporting another district this morning, but if you recall, a few months ago back in the fall, we shared with you the updates we had thus far on the strategic plan. I don't know, do you have a slideshow there?
We do.
Okay, so we'll kind of skip on to slide number 2 there. But we had shared with you the data that was available at that point in time for the 24-25 school year. And since then, there has been some additional information that has been validated by the state. And so Brunswick County Schools shared that with us, and we used the same process that we used before. So Dr. Reinhardt and I did a blind rating and review of the data, and then we got together to share that information. So we'll skip to slide 3. The first piece of parts of information, we're supporting priority number 1, student success. What we saw there was strong foundational structures in place with a commitment to improving quality instruction, aligning curricula, supporting differentiated instruction. Overall, I think we've seen some limited progress as far as the number of schools meeting or exceeding growth and the number of students that were proficient. We added Coast. You added Coast last year, so you now have 20 schools in the district, and 8 of those schools met growth. So that was the same as we saw before, and about 55% of the students were showing proficiency. So that was pretty similar to what we had seen the previous year. And you should, I think, also have a document that is a strategic plan progress. It's a kind of a color-coded, it's got some bright yellow on it that will highlight you the new data points that we saw this year and we reviewed this time. Any questions on that part? The next slide highlights priority 1. This is goal 1.2. And in this goal, we did see significant progress in several areas. This was really focusing a lot on the areas of career and technical education participation, career planning efforts, and I know this was a big focus for the district last year and going forward as a part of their plan. The percentage of CTE concentrators increased by 11 percentage points, and that's a very, very large increase. And there was also an 11 percentage point increase in credential attainment. And I think that is an area that, based on what the long-term goals were, that Brunswick County Schools may want to consider modifying that goal moving forward, because they have already met and exceeded what their current goals were for the 5-year plan. So a lot of effort has really been made in that area. So significant increases. Great work there. And then in the area, the next slide, the areas of student services, priority 2, graduation rate. Once again, we saw some good growth in this area. Brunswick County Schools exceeded the graduation rate goal. According to the DPI website and verification, the graduation rate for the prior school year was 87.6, and that is a 10-year high for Brunswick County Schools. So much congratulations to the district for their efforts in improving graduation rates for students. And then the final area that we had some new information to review was the area of threat assessments and reportable offenses for discipline rates. Of course, this is one that we're looking for those numbers to decrease. We want there to be fewer discipline threats and students involved in those. Once again, this was an area we saw limited progress as far as improving percentages, but there was a lot of work that has been done in the background to kind of lay some groundwork that they're beginning to work on, putting some support pieces in place to address this and to help reduce the number of students that are involved. I think we saw about the same number of students involved, but a slight uptick in enrollment, so the percentage stayed about the same. Slight decrease there, but pretty much still within that same ballpark, but not quite meeting the goal yet. So those were the new data points that we had for review for this section, and I'll be glad to answer any questions about the process, or if you have questions regarding the data or the action steps that have been put in place. I'm sure that Superintendent Cole and the district can probably better address those.
Does anyone have any questions? I would definitely say we have a grow and a lot of glows.
I have a question. I mean, there are a lot of goals that aren't addressed in the assessment of what we're achieving or not achieving. How do you determine which goals you're going to focus on?
So when we did the review in July, we reviewed all of the data points that we had at that point in time. And this review was only going over the new data points that we received since July.
Okay.
I got a point to make about that after y'all are done with questions.
So I guess my other question, when would our next update be? Because we went to 4 times a year instead of 2? Or
No, it was, we actually, initially our contract was for 1, but the board wanted an update in July. I mean, and maybe y'all want to continue to get those updates. We're not going to have growth information in July for teachers and that sort of thing. So, I mean, my suggestion will be an annual review in January or February because we'll get all the last of the EVOS information in late October to early November. And that gives them time to take a look at all of it and prepare a presentation for January, because obviously December is a shorter month for us. So that would be my suggestion for that, is to just do an annual report in January or February.
So when proficiency comes out, we would just get that from our
From
team
us,
here.
that's correct.
How's the board
That would be
feel?
our recommendation as well, to do a one-time review of all of the information against the goals and review the progress in January at one time of the year.
How does the board feel about that? Okay with that? So it would just
We
be,
can figure that out later, right?
We can, I just wanted to hear what your thoughts were on that.
okay.
And we can revisit that. That was I think initially we started with 2 plans, but To me, it just makes a little more sense to do it one time a year. So, but yeah, you guys can think about that. You don't have to take action on it today. But,
Okay.
the other two things, if there were no more questions, a couple of things. One, I would just say that on goal 1.1 with the percent of schools meeting or exceeding growth, or the number of schools meeting or exceeding growth, I did want to point out that we made a lot of progress towards growth across the district last year. And in several schools, for example, in our 6 schools where we had the lowest amount of growth the year before, every one of those schools improved their growth last year significantly. It just wasn't enough to meet the state requirement of meeting growth. And goal 1.1 is very clear. It is, did you meet or exceed growth or not? But there's also space there between meeting growth and where you were. It's kind of like if you're coaching a football team and you play the same team at the beginning of the season and you lose by 30, and then you play them again in the playoffs and you lose by 10, and you look at the game film and you played a much better game. You've made a lot of growth since the beginning of the season, but you still didn't win. You know what I mean? So I did want to share that. We've made a lot of progress, and we believe we're going to make more progress this year. So we'll see. The other thing is, just for the public, a lot of people in the public that may be watching this, they may not be clear on the last goal about the threat assessment process. Molly, could you share a little bit of just when a threat assessment is done and what that process looks like?
Sure. In the threat assessment process, it is done as that there is a harm to self or harm to others. And so we do not have those separated out here. Additionally, it is at any point where it would impact the school day. So many of our threat assessments actually happen overnight events that happen in the home and in the community, and we have the student come the next day. So we are in contact with law enforcement, our partners all through the night, through our gaggle, our say something, all those processes. And so many of our threat assessments actually occur outside, it's from incidents outside of that. So there's a lot of detail within that to sort it out. And then obviously we have the difference between harm to self and harm to others. So we, as an instructional team, dig deeply into the threat assessment data and look at it kind of from all components. And I think what Melanie too kind of alluded to is our work at looking at the number of students. So we have students with significant mental health issues that may have 3 threat assessments over the course of a few weeks for harm to self. And we're working with the family and the community to get the supports in place. So we're actually looking at the number of students with threat assessments, not the actual number of them that are conducted. Because we want to have a threat assessment done if there is a need for one. So the idea isn't to reduce that, it's to reduce the number of students who would need one, because they're getting those kinds of supports and their mental health is improving.
Yeah, I just wanted anybody in the public looking at this, I wanted them to be clear of when we talk about sort of measuring threat assessments, what it is and how it's used. We don't want people to not do threat assessments as if it's a negative thing. If it needs to be done, we want to do it. Our goal is to have fewer students that need threat assessments by support. And then, secondly, the fact that a lot of these things that require threat assessments, these behaviors that require threat assessments, actually happen outside of the schools and outside of the school day. And then we have to sort of use our processes to deal with it in partnership, sometimes with law enforcement and sometimes with other mental health partners.
Yes.
So, thank you, Molly.
Well, and not all threat assessments are required to see a doctor, right?
Most are
I was
not.
just gonna make that
Most
point,
are
that you would
preventative
get 10
on
that-
our part to make sure
Right.
whatever was said by the student,
Right.
that we are confirming that there's not a threat to
Right.
self or others behind it. Because sometimes it's just a simple statement and we
Right.
just investigate through it. So we're really thorough with this process. We probably go above and beyond in some situations, but we just feel it's imperative to be, safe and have all the information we can around a statement that was made.
Thank you.
And And before I leave, I would just like to reiterate the fact that in all of the information that was shared, we see a lot of significant progress in the groundwork being laid for the district to put some very solid components in place, both on the student services side and on the academic performance side. So I think as those pieces have a chance to really solidify, I think you will continue to see growth in those areas. The Brunswick built is definitely evident throughout the work that they are doing. They are laying a solid foundation.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I think we have Mr. Pascal. Did you have something for
Yes, members of the board, if you don't mind, just in the case that we have Doug here from Sawyer Sherwood would for a presentation, a schematics presentation. Would the board mind if we sort of took a break from the curriculum committee right now, skipped over to operations, and let Sawyer Sherwood do their presentation so that he could go and get back to work designing our school?
Yes.
And then we could come back to curriculum, if that would be okay?
That's
Sure.
wonderful. Sure.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Sherwood, you are up.
I have a presentation.
Okay.
So while we're pulling that up, thank you for moving us forward in the agenda. Much appreciated. And as I've already been introduced, I know most of you know me. I am Doug Sherwood with Sawyer Sherwood Associate Architecture. And today I'm joined by Jenny Williams. She's actually our project architect on your new school. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of a split presentation. Me kind of covering some of the basis of where we are, what we've done, and then Jenny will lead into the schematic portion.
BCS New Elementary School.
Yeah. Oh, that's a PowerPoint. Do you need a PDF?
Well, hey Ben.
I think we went to the power.
Yeah.
Was it,
this
yeah,
one
it was
still
also the IT guy.
doesn't have
Yay.
PowerPoint on it.
Like, that's what he said, right?
He's a man of many parts. Man of many.
Is that what we did the last time?
Yes, parties. Girl parties. That's right. Oh. It's the Southern Kentucky one.
Don't mind us.
Technical difficulties.
Say Doug next time, send us that ahead of time.
Yes, sorry. We were told to bring a thumb drive, thinking it would be a little bit quicker than connecting into our machine.
Oh, my Lanta.
I don't know if that.
If you want to give it to me, I can turn it into a PDF and email it to
We
you.
have it in a PDF.
We do have a
It's
PDF
hidden
as well.
in the
It's-
folders.
Yeah,
If-
you can grab, show where you put it.
I was about to go grab another laptop.
Yeah, we can do the PDF. The quality's not gonna be quite as good, but it,
And it's the last one.
This one?
get through it that way.
Thank you.
You wanna borrow this to navigate through it?
Yeah, does this not,
Well, it might. Try it. Oh, it does. Okay.
maybe? Can you go back? Yes. Okay, great. All right, sorry for that. So we wanted to start a little bit just with where we've been and where we're going. So we have Again, we have completed the design guidelines for future Brunswick County elementary schools. We have also completed the master planning for your Jacobs Creek Elementary School. Over the past 3 months, we've been working on schematic design efforts to further the concept plans presented during our master planning. We've continued meeting with Brunswick County School Operations Department and the selected construction manager at risk, commonly referred to as CMAR, to ensure everyone is informed and on board with the project. Full plans along with design narratives have been submitted to North Carolina Department of Public Instruction for their review and comment. This information has also been provided to our cost estimating team. And further geotechnical information on the site has been requested based on the approved master plan, and that is currently underway. So what's next? We will be presenting today a sample of the information that is currently being reviewed by the construction cost estimating team. A little bit about that team. That team includes an independent cost estimator hired by our firm, as well as a cost estimate that is being done by your CMAR. While there'll be some time allotted for reconciliation of the two estimates, we do plan to be able to provide the school board an update on how the cost is tracking at your March 3rd meeting. Provided that the project is tracking within budget and that the design is acceptable to the board, we will also be requesting a notice to proceed with design development during your March meeting. To kind of close that loop, we will be submitting full schematic design package to operations upon completion of the cost estimate and geotechnical information. Just a quick update on the schedule. We are scheduled to complete schematic design by the end of March. Currently, we're tracking to be done with that phase of design the first week of March, so we're currently about 3 weeks ahead of schedule, which works out well with your upcoming board meeting. Future milestone dates have not changed. We are still looking at completing design development in the middle of August of this year, construction documents by December of this year, all permitting approvals by March of 2027, and have bidding completed by May of 2027, with construction completing October of 2028. That allows some time for the school to move in over December break and be open and ready for students January 1 of 2029. As far as the site is concerned, just to remind everyone where we are, the red line identifies the parcel that Brunswick County Schools is currently in the process of purchasing. The site is in the same location, although the property boundary has been modified slightly by the developer through the closing process and kind of negotiating where they were putting their access road in their property. The other update on the site is it has been timbered by the developer, so the lot has been cleared. As we move into the parcel itself, you can see that we've had to shift the project just slightly to the right to accommodate that road. There's no longer a right of way on your property. The road is completely off the property, which I think is a benefit to all. But everything still fits. There's no major issues there. A little bit closer up, just to really hone in on where we are. The project site is just above a flood zone to the south. It is below wetlands that is located to the north. We are east of the developer's road, and we are just slightly west of the power line easement. The area adjustment still allows for future building expansion if and when needed down the road. And just a little bit about the site again. The parent visitor staff entrance to the north. I don't believe there's a so the upper left-hand corner of the site is our parent visitor staff entrance. So this is where your car riders will arrive, and they'll be dropped off at the front of the school. They'll dismiss at the front of the school, and they'll be using the gym space for that staging. There is a staff parking up in the upper right-hand corner as well in that location that will be dedicated to staff. As you move further down to the bottom left-hand corner, that is your bus and service and staff entrance. So your bus riders will be entering via that southern entrance. They will be dropped off and picked up on the side of the building, which utilizes the cafeteria for staging purposes. And again, there is a staff parking lot in that location as well. And then as we move into the more fun stuff, I'm going to turn it over to Jenny so she can walk you through all of the schematic designs we've been working on.
Doug, can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
About if you go back one slide.
Yes, sir.
The retention pond, SCM2,
Yes, sir.
is there any reason that can't be located closer to the right-of-way, closer to the easement in that, you know? Because, I mean, it looks like probably the slope goes in that direction. I can see that wetlands area,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the right-of-way, in the power easement.
Yes, sir. You're talking about just above the wetlands and to the left of the power line easement?
Yeah, I mean, we have that setback,
Mhm.
you know, due to the power easement.
Sure. Yeah, we can definitely look at that. I know we're working with grades, but
Because
that
that
may be.
property sits on our side of the setback, where you have it currently situated.
Mm-hmm.
And if the grade allows us to utilize the area closer to the right-of-way, the closer to the right-of-way we can get it, the better.
Sure.
It allows us a little bit more options in the future on how we utilize that space.
I think that's a very valid point. We originally were intending to have some tree vegetation there, but I do believe that the timbering has taken most of those. So that opens up that opportunity to move that pond. So yes, we'll definitely take a look at that.
Good morning. So there are 3 driving factors behind the building's design, and all of those came from the design guidelines that we helped develop for your school system with the help of teachers and staff early last year. Those factors are to organize the space based on activity level, reduce walking distances between classrooms and shared spaces, and to provide natural light, while also trying to reduce glare in the classrooms. So at the end of master planning, Doug presented you the preliminary plans, and through schematic design, the overall spatial layout has remained constant. We still have the building organized in 2 main bars, with the long axis is facing north and south, and this helps allow light to come into the classroom spaces while giving us an opportunity to control it and reduce the glare. We've also worked to reduce hallway lengths to shorten travel distances, and in doing so, shared spaces like the workrooms, the resource rooms, and building support spaces, they're all located in the center of the bars, with the learning spaces on the north and south walls. The staff restrooms are spread throughout the building, and this is to help for quicker access for teachers. And also smaller group restrooms are incorporated for students to help prevent traffic jams that happen throughout the day. So the red arrow is the main entrance into the building. As you enter the building, you're flanked by the admin offices, which are the green spaces, and the gym on the yellow. The admin it's located close to the center of the building. And this is to help maximize sight lines from offices to vehicles entering the site. So you're not relying on cameras. And it also serves as the entry gate into the school. The gym, it's located near the main entrance because of the school system's ongoing agreement with Brunswick County's Parks and Recreation Department to allow the community to use the PE space after hours. So we located the gym here, and it's near parking. We have the ability to separate it from the rest of the school for after-hours use. And the gym is also used as staging spaces for students for carpool pickup at the end of the day. Students can directly exit the gym into this large canopy space at the front of the building, and it puts them out right next to the carpool lanes. So moving down the hall, the red spaces are the cafeteria and the kitchen. We've organized this to take advantage of the bus loop for deliverables. And it's also has a covered space connecting the cafeteria to the bus loop, providing weather protection for students coming on and off the buses. And further down the hall, we have the exceptional children classrooms. Those are located next to the admin offices for extra support. And at the end of the hall, it's the kindergarten classrooms. Moving up the plan, there's a small connector wing. The purple spaces are art and music classrooms. And there's also some student support offices in that space. And the top bar is a 2-story classroom and media center wing. And this is separated from the rest of the building to help the upper grades have testing, and we want to keep it away from noisier spaces like the cafeteria and the gym. So on the first floor, we have the 1st and 2nd grade classrooms with the media center in the center, which are the orange spaces. And moving up to the 2nd floor, the media center continues up in a 2-story volume, and this will be visible from the 2nd floor hallway. And it also allows natural light from the north wall in the media center to infiltrate into the center of the 2nd floor hall. So you're benefiting from those natural light. And to help further separation of noise, the 2nd floor is dedicated to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classrooms. Bless you.
Thank you.
So this is a bird's eye view of the front of the school. The 2-story classroom wing that I just discussed is on your left. There's the center connection wing linking to kindergarten EC classrooms, the gym and the cafeteria and the admin offices. We're aiming to provide simple roof forms, and what this means are single sloped roofs with large overhangs at exterior walls. And this will provide shading for windows, weather protection, and it also eliminates finicky details like parapets and roof drains that can lead to water infiltration issues down the line. We also have high windows in the kindergarten hallway, the connector wing hallway, and the gym, and this brings diffuse light into more interior spaces. So this is a view of the school main entrance. The tall volume on the right is the gym. You can see the 2-story classroom wing in the background. And in the center, the roof projects out, creating a large canopy space for the carpool area, and it also helps direct you to the building's main entrance.
What is that linear run there where that canopy is from right to left? What's
The-
it, how long is it? I'm
Oh,
just trying
how
to get
long
some
is it?
scale. Yeah.
I think it's about 100 feet
Oh,
long.
really? And it's what, a 10-foot overhang or something?
It's 15 feet. It
Wow.
varies from 10 to 15 feet.
Is there an elevator in the
There,
section?
there will be an
Okay.
elevator in the for the 2-story wing.
What is the average size of the classrooms? Do you know
It
that?
depends on the classroom. 1st through 5th grade, the average size is 850 square feet, I believe.
Mhm.
The kindergarten classrooms are 1,200 square feet, and I believe the EC classrooms are also 1,200 square feet.
Did you talk about the staging area for the buses? I know you said
Yes,
the gym is the staging area for car riders,
Cafeteria for
the,
so
the
cafeteria for
cafeteria
buses.
will be for buses, and we'll provide a canopy leading to the bus loop from the
Okay,
cafeteria.
great.
And the green, the staff support, they're at the ends of the buildings too. And
Correct.
So that's a good idea, yeah.
And that's to help with visual
Mhm.
surveillance as well.
Yeah.
So music and art are the purple,
Correct.
is that correct? And what is are those classrooms directly across from?
Those are student support, so the counselors,
Okay.
guidance.
Okay. And is the
Okay.
music room up, as we're looking at it, up on top or the bottom? Which
It's
one?
at the bottom,
At the bottom, okay, cool.
so they're not right
Near
next to the
classroom.
classroom. There's
That's
some
my question.
separation.
Okay. And will they be meeting again with staff, like the teachers, and to look at this? Will they be meeting again? Will you be meeting again with them?
We're happy to. It would be kind of a decision from operations or the board.
I mean, I would think that that would be a
Involvement.
good idea to meet with people who would actually be using the building to see if they see anything that.
We have, it has been run by some of the directors of departments. So your nutrition has taken a look at the kitchen.
Okay.
And while we don't have kitchen equipment laid out currently, it's thematic. They're made sure they were comfortable with everything we were setting up. So some of that is happening.
At this point, the design of the school and classrooms and all that has been submitted to DPI for review, correct?
Yes, sir.
So at this point, it would just be reporting out on what it looks like based on the feedback that they gave at the beginning.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. When you ask about the room sizes, those room sizes are based on the program that we developed with your staff, with the
Okay.
teachers and the users of the building. The concept of of multiple staff restrooms throughout the building, that is also directly from our program. So we have definitely utilized that program for the design of the building.
Parking is always such a nightmare in schools, so it looks like they have ample.
Well, it's less of a nightmare when the parking is engineered to meet the size of the capacity of the school.
Touche.
Much less of a nightmare.
You're right.
When you double the capacity of the school with trailers without adding parking, yes, you're
And-
exactly right.
That is one thing that's been taken into consideration with this design as well, is what it's being designed to meet is the minimum student occupancy, but making sure that our queuing lane is designed such that if it does increase by a few hundred down the road, you are already designed to handle that car flow. So it's a little bit of an incremental increase now, but the benefits later will pay off big.
And not just that, but the cafeteria is designed for about 200 or so more students than what we're actually building for right now.
How many students are we building for in this particular?
I think the current design is like 720.
Like 750, 760.
750, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And it has the capacity to grow to 900.
950, I think is what we were
950.
given. So we've tried to lay out, and it's always a little bit of push and pull, but we're trying to make sure that the cafeteria, as you mentioned, is designed to handle more students.
Right.
And at some point, it might handle 1,000 instead of 950, but it's what works with the building layout. But what typically is your limiting factor when the school grows, as your school grows, and then you're serving lunch from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we want to make sure that the cafeteria, the kitchen will support that growth down the road. Your media center is ample. Your gym space is already larger because of your agreement with the county. So you have a full basketball court. So your core spaces are already designed to handle that growth.
Yeah, like in most districts, you would not have a full-size gym for an elementary school, but we do because Parks and Rec uses it. So that already gives us a lot of additional space we wouldn't normally have in an elementary school program. And I know people love smaller schools, especially with elementary schools, but just the reality with the amount of growth that's coming to our county, it's just not realistic anymore to do smaller schools. We have to build bigger because it's honestly better for the taxpayer. And the bigger you build, the cheaper it is to build.
It seems odd having the gym there, but it makes sense.
Mhm.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably the most logical looking, because
Yeah.
especially for games and things and performances, whatever you have for the
Well, we
student, there they
yeah,
are, they're right there, not having to.
We wanna partner with Parks and Rec to allow them to use our gyms for recreation sports, because that's what's best for the kids and the taxpayers. But we also don't want people running up and down our hallways And if they find a door that happened to have been left open overnight going in, and
Well,
you
just
know,
for, just
so it
for
allows us,
activities.
yeah, it
for
allows
parent
us
things
to
and-
give
and just
access to
sports.
the gym while blocking off the rest of the school and keeping it secure. That would be much more difficult if the gym was like in the middle of the hallway or something.
Yeah.
Back of the school.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of great
Just-
thought that's
just
been
the
put into
flow of
this.
Everything.
We received a lot of great feedback from our teachers prior to the design process. And Doug and his team have used that throughout the design of this building.
When you have future expansion, will student support be still located near the backs of the building for?
Yes, ma'am.
Safety.
I was gonna try and point that out. It's a little bit difficult to see, but there are two gray rectangles to the right side. That's where we anticipate growth. I think when we previously looked at master planning, we were also looking at going towards the front of the two-story wing. We kind of rethought that and said, if you're gonna do an addition, it's always more bang for your buck to do one larger piece versus two small pieces. So we're looking at the larger addition to the two-story wing being towards the right side, and the same with kindergarten. And so the support spaces are there, would definitely still be close, but you might at that point need to add another one.
Yeah.
But since the hallway is designed the way it is with that core space, new HVAC equipment can go there, additional staff support can go there as well. So it just kind of extends out that current idea. And we are talking with working with our engineers to make sure when we design, for example, your domestic water system, we'll probably run that main water line down to the end of the hall, put a valve and a cap, so that if and when you do the addition, you're ready to go. Again, it's kind of pennies on the dollar now if we think about it, and then if you do end up needing that addition in the future, you're kind of set up.
And I love the media center. That's really nice. Great job on that.
Thank you, thank you. One thing that we didn't mention, but you can see the wetland a little bit in this image to the north, and that media center focuses towards that wetland. So we've got some nature area, hopefully, that they can look out to, as well as that northern light. So it can be a lot of glass that just comes in and infiltrates.
Nice.
What's the total number of classrooms? Do we know that for sure?
I've counted them multiple times, and I don't know that I can give it to you off the top of my head. I might be able to.
It'll serve 756.
Yeah.
Yes.
Divided by 20.
Yeah.
Additionally.
Yeah.
I mean, it.
Okay.
Enough for each grade level.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have a class size law that we have to navigate in K-3. We don't have that in grades 4 and 5. So depending on the size of each population, we'll have to move kids around from classroom to classroom, but.
Any other questions? Wonderful.
It's good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's really good.
Ms. Cook, my suggestion would be, just based on the time that is going to be required, that we just go ahead and run through the operations agenda, if you don't mind, and then come back to curriculum.
So we haven't really closed one meeting to another, we're just segueing back.
Yeah,
and
we're
forth.
segueing.
Yeah.
We're just having a great big meeting.
We're integrated.
That's fine.
Being flexible.
We're just, flexible.
I wanted to try to help the outside presenters to not have to sit here for
Absolutely.
2 or 3 hours.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, first up is the roofing contract for South Brunswick High School. So we are planning we did the West Brunswick High School roof last year. Current plans are to do South Brunswick High School this year, the entire roof at that school, in addition to a canopy at the front of the school that we put off for a couple years until we got to the roof project so that we could tie that in together. So there'll be a canopy for the entrance area that's kind of similar to West, that's, I think, been long needed there. That way we'll have one at all 3 high schools. We did get 7 bids received So we had a good bid process. We went with Triangle Roofing Services. Their low bid was $2,266,400. This is the same company out of Raleigh area that did the West Brunswick roof, and we were very satisfied. I think they did a really solid job. Everything was on time, and we're real happy with the job they did at West also. So we got a lot of confidence in them to do a good job here at South for us. So just asking for the contract to be approved for that amount.
And this will be a summer?
Yes, sir, the summer of '26. Be ready for hopefully opening of school.
Do you need this approved?
No, it's just consent.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's from capital outlay budget?
Yes,
That's not.
yes.
Is all the bond
The bond
stuff
is
finished?
completed and
Everything's-
closed.
Okay, so we don't
Yes,
have any
ma'am.
more old bond money? Okay.
Not
All right.
any left over.
Okay.
All right, the custodial contract amendment kind of seems familiar maybe, but actually, this is the first time this year we've had to amend this. We're constantly working to identify companies that can give us good staffing support for our open custodial positions. So we take these subs from these companies, we put them into current openings that we have, and it's basically a dollar for dollar trade-off. If we have an open position, that money from our custodial funding is used for these contracts. We started the year in July. We asked you to approve 2 companies for an amount of $175,000, and unfortunately, one of the companies did not work out well. They were new to us. They were unable to really provide us with staffing as was discussed. And we've relied heavily on Carolina Staffing Solution this year. We currently have 12 custodial openings as of this morning. Carolina Staffing is currently giving us 9 substitutes. So we have 3 uncovered positions right now. So they're doing a pretty good job for us. We want to take the funding from ABS as we ended that contract and move that amount over to Carolina Staffing, which should cover us from now through the end of this fiscal year. And just asking the board to approve that move.
All right, so it's just a,
Yep. That's a consent item also. Any questions?
So that you don't have any, you mean you've got complete agreement from Atlantic Building Solutions about the
Yeah, I mean,
termination?
Yeah, we basically had very little contact with them for the last couple of months. And, they didn't fight it at all.
Okay.
all right,
Thank you.
thank you. Ms. Bayer? Or whoever's,
Good morning.
Good morning.
So it's that time of year for E-rate. So we're getting ready to do our application. So we're bringing to you our plan for what we're going to apply for. So we file this yearly, and the reason we do is we get federal discounts on our fiber services that are between our schools. This is how the schools get the internet and get services from us as a district. And that is better known as Category 1. So when we give some numbers for Category 1, think of connection between the schools. The second thing is Category 2, and that's when we can buy switches, we can buy access points, licenses for those, do some school wiring, things of that nature. So Category 1 is a little bit different than Category 2. Category 1 gets a 90% discount. Category 2 gets 85%. We love the 85% because that money is based on our student count, and we all know that is growing, but USAC upped that number this year, so we are at $201.57 per student that we are allowed to spend on them over a 5-year period of time. We're just beginning a new 5 years, so we have plans for that. We don't spend it all year 1, but we will spend a little bit this year. So for Category 1, we already have an existing contract with Focus. It's actually called Atlantic Sea Winds Communications LLC. We know it as Focus Broadband locally. That contract ends June 2027, so we'll be using that contract to apply for the fiber services to our schools. Category 2, we put out for bid and received eligible vendors' quotes, and within that, awarded it. And the results of that is us making a recommendation that the fiber services totaling $1,244,587.70, with our responsibility being $124,458.77, begin on July 1, 2026. Category 2 would be $263,243.39 on the application, and our part is $39,486.51. So we fund that through local funds for like utility services. The fiber's utility based, and then category 2, because it's equipment licenses, it'll come out of capital outlay technology funds. So it's a great program to save a lot of money. So the deadline for applying is April Fool's Day, April 1st. But we're asking that you put this on consent for us to apply for this, and we will get that done in March. Any questions?
Did you say category 2 is done every 5 years?
The calculation of the amount that we get for every student, yes, sir.
How long has this been, all right, the E-rate, been doing it? A long time.
A very long time.
Yeah.
I was a contract engineer out in the field before ever coming here, and I've been here for a while, so I think back in the 90s.
I think it's been,
So are the fiber services, are we replacing, how does, I mean, that's an infrastructure kind of piece, but it has a certain life. I mean, what's the sort of schedule on fiber? How does, I'm trying to understand.
We
you
are
know,
buying,
I mean, it's a great
the
deal,
service.
but we're still spending $124,000. What are we replacing on the fiber side, or what new fiber are we running? What, you know?
Okay. We pay for the service from Focus Broadband. They're responsible for providing the level of service that we ask for.
So this is for fiber service, not for
Yes.
the,
Yes,
not
sir.
for the actual fiber?
Yes,
Just the
they own it,
service.
and we just pay for the service for them to provide it, and the speed that we ask for every school's connection
Okay.
into our data centers.
And so that's basically then, I guess, the annual fee we have for connectivity
Yes,
through Focus.
yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
anything
Any
else?
questions?
Consent? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'll hand it back over to Ms. Smith.
Okay, we're gonna
Or whichever,
keep moving with Mr. Pascal. You're up next to talk about our Brunswick Virtual Academy.
Good morning, good morning.
good morning.
Back to talk about Brunswick Virtual Academy. We actually went through most of the slides last time, and we had asked to bring back some information in regards to how much of the funding that we have been sending out was going out of our district, and I'm basically bringing those numbers, and then open to any other questions or discussion we want around Brunswick Virtual Academy. For those who were watching online or anyone in the public, we did go through this entire presentation at our last committee meeting, so I will save and not go through all of it this time. The ultimate goal, though, was the ask to have the opportunity to open Brunswick Virtual Academy instead of the current status, which is only supporting more of our at-risk students at risk of dropping out or potentially health-related reasons, and any type of potential disciplinary related reasons. Those are what it's currently being used at. a lot of dropout prevention. As you saw earlier in our strategic plan, we did increase our dropout prevention rate, or rather our graduation rate, increased that. A lot of that is also in part due to other opportunities, and one being Brunswick Virtual Academy. So just want to say that's what we've been using it for. What we want to use it for, just to review for everybody, is actually use that same platform, but open it up kindergarten through 12th grade for students who are not currently for the pilot beginning stage of this. We want to open it up for anyone who is not currently in Brunswick County Schools. So most of our homeschool students and or some of those charter school students that would want to come into our school system. And a lot in part was that we have several, and I'll show you here in a minute, we have several students that this pertains to. So just homeschool students alone, around 1,750 students. That breaks down to about somewhere between 6 to 8 students per grade level per school that are choosing some sort of homeschool platform, and or even more that are choosing charter school. So this was the homeschool number. There are even more if you think of online charter schools. And I have those numbers updated for you specifically from finance, and that is actually at the end of the slide. So the last slide that's posted publicly now shows those numbers. So we went back to the last full year that we have all the numbers for. That was what finance could go back to. Obviously last year they still, I'm assuming, have not released all of the information for finance to be able to pull together, but she was able to pull the 23-24 school year. We, out of the 117 students enrolled in virtual charter school programs, these specific ones we actually had to write checks to. And it's not just, I want to make sure everybody understands the difference. Because of the change in legislation and policy from NCDPI, we now have to send a portion of our local funds to these virtual charter schools. So it's not just what we do not receive from the state, it's actually local tax-paying dollars that have to be sent to virtual charter schools. So when a student signs up for NC Cyber, NC Virtual, or Pine Springs Prep, all of those are outside of Brunswick County. We have to write a check to those organizations to the tune of $516,000 in that school year. We're looking to keep Brunswick County funds here in the county. So by opening this up, we hope to pull back some of those students, if not all of them, because the product's not just the same platform most likely that they're using, but a better product in the sense that we have wraparound services in their own county that can support children even better. And I'm confident in saying that.
I'm surprised at the ratio of local to state funding, because that's lower. It doesn't reflect the ratio of the funding that we, the money that we have. It's like 2 to 1 that we get, the state relative to local funds. So how is it that it's almost 1 to 1 here?
Yeah, that would be a question I could ask Sherry, but in terms of the specific numbers, those are the ones that
You
was
understand
almost
what I'm
1 to 1. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the monies we receive from the state are twice what we contribute locally.
Yeah. One thing I don't know, and I don't want to speculate, maybe the numbers she gave me were the largest checks, so those would be the ones that culminated in the most students. Maybe there are other students. I'd have to ask Sherry about the details of why that one is closer to 1 to 1. Other questions in general about next steps maybe? Maybe that would make you feel a little bit better, because what we're asking for is the approval to expand it, K-12, as an opportunity for students who are targeting students that are outside of Brunswick County schools.
And as I recall, I think you said we're currently in this program for the limited application
Yeah.
that you mentioned, and then we're just expanding it, so if it doesn't work, we can just go back to what we were doing.
You got it, yeah. Yeah, right now it's zero upfront cost. The more students that enroll, the more supports we'll need. I mean, obviously those students will need some more supports. Every time a student enrolls, those classes aren't paid for until they use them. So we don't have to pay for any classes. It's scalable in design. I mean, it's meant to be that way so that we can expand it as needed and then decrease as needed. At some point we would need a principal, and if we get over 100 students enrolled, which we already have 80 some, then we would actually get funding. Sherry said, she confirmed for me, that we would get funding for a principal to cover it, whether we call that a coordinator or, I guess that's up to us as a team. But
I think the risk-benefit analysis of this is we can, positively impact a lot of students with a relatively low financial investment. And the more kids we can bring back into Brunswick County schools with the services we provide, especially if they're going to a school that's outside the area that they can't physically talk to somebody face-to-face, we can provide that here. So I think we're improving even the virtual experience just by offering them all that Brunswick County Schools has to offer.
yeah, the wraparound services, I don't want to skate by that. Families listening at home, the wraparound services that public education can give their children is far more vast than they might realize. And I don't say that naively. Obviously, we have it here in the building and on a regular basis. But once we know that they're our kids, the services that we can bring to them, even though they're remote, are still much greater than they might realize. So I'd love, the next step is, if approved, we would actually open up some meeting opportunities, potentially in regions that would then we could bring in some of these homeschool or charter school families to begin talking about it before we open up the application process, or simultaneously, so that they can really think through it as a family. Is this something I want to do? It's going to be at no cost to them, so it might be something they would want to consider for sure.
To me, that's a big thing.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking, and it's not necessarily a negative or how we put a spin on it, because they're not going to be attending a physical school, and because we have some schools that are not, meeting growth right now, the message is going to be what? These are not Brunswick County teachers right now. These are teachers that are
Or are they?
from another,
Yeah, so right,
from across the state.
yeah, good question. So
So-
right now, the teachers are actually offered through Ed Options, which is
Right.
the Ed Minimum platform. So those would be teachers outside of Brunswick County currently. However, at some point we would rather pay and utilize the teachers that live in the county for that in phase 2 and 3. So I'd had that further back in the slides for those who are just catching up to what we're working on. But phase 2 and 3, we would like a hybrid model of BCS teachers supporting these students. They do that anyway. I did it as a teacher when I worked in New Hanover County and Brunswick County. I taught online through NCBPS and then Florida Virtual Academy for a better part of a decade, and I worked in the evenings, on the weekends. And, it was a part-time job for me. It would be beneficial to have local teachers at some point teaching.
But I guess to continue the thought process, the teacher, do we have scores from some of these other hybrid schools that are already, or other schools that are already in existence as far as their performance in these virtual schools?
Yeah.
Because I'm saying if I'm teaching, if I have my child at home with me, which I have done, I would have loved to have these resources, and I did have resources, but every child was different, and some virtual things work for one child, some things didn't work for the other child. If I say, well, I can get my child do the homeschool and get the better grades than I can with the virtual. So I'm just saying, these are thoughts that I would have as a parent. What am I gonna achieve besides not having to come up with the lesson plans myself, which is huge.
I've got a great.
If the level of instruction is going to be what my child needs, and
Yeah, I think
I know it all depends on the
for
child as well.
For the family, it's low risk, high reward in the sense of they are getting a licensed teacher in the state of North Carolina that will be attached to their child for every class that they're in. And then they will have assessments and work that is going to be comparable to what other students that are in this online platform as well. So now it's actually a common friend of ours who's considering, homeschool. I can talk to you more about later. He's also thinking now I have a little bit of a plumb line to see, I believe my students doing really well in ELA right now. But now I have a state test and I have some assessments that are giving me, and now I can really hone in and say, okay, maybe my daughter is actually right where I need her to be right now, or now I can compare because I have an entire public school system to really view and see, oh wow, so maybe I do need to work on vocabulary a little bit more. Maybe I do need to. So now I can tweak it. So I would say with the expansion of being able to work locally with an online academy, even though at home, gives them the expansion of now being able to see what are the real areas that I need to work with my child on. Whereas they might not always have. I mean, they do have options. I'm not trying to push out the idea that they have been able to compare and see, but you definitely will have more opportunities now for parents to digest, where does my kid, stand, so to speak, right now, so I can give them more supports.
I would just share, recent legislation has provided parents and families with choice options. Okay, so what we want to do as a school district is we want to provide those choices. We want to provide those choices because we believe that we provide the best product. But it may not be the best fit for every kid and every family. So then they choose other options, which is they have that right. Currently, the option of online virtual school are these virtual academies approved by the state of North Carolina. We don't provide that option. And as a result, local funds and state funds that could come to our district to benefit our students go outside of our district. Those two, I don't know about the third one, the Pine, some other, but NC Virtual and NC Cyber, both of those online virtual schools have been low-performing schools since the day they opened. In COVID, we saw through our data, nationwide, that the majority of students do not perform as well in virtual environments as they do with face-to-face environments. But there's 20-30% of students that perform very well in virtual environments. The point is, this option that we're developing, we're only allowing it right now to people that are already availing themselves of a virtual option outside of our district. We want to give them an option that we believe is better due to the wraparound services that we can provide. And that if they're having trouble, they can come and visit the coast where the virtual academy would sort of be administered out of. And they could sit down in front of someone and have a face-to-face meeting with them, or with a counselor, or with a principal, whatever it may be. We haven't mentioned private schools. Some families choose private schools. Whether or not this would be an option for them or not depends on the reason why they chose that private school. If they chose it because they wanted their child to receive a religious-based education, this would not be for them. We are not allowed to provide a religious-based education. We have to provide options that teach to the North Carolina Standard Course of Study, which this virtual academy would do. So this really wouldn't be an option for those parents. But if you chose private school because you just were a little worried about your kid being in a big school and you wanted them to be in a smaller school, and you weren't tied to a religious-based education, then this could be an option to you that would allow your child to get a North Carolina Standard Course of Study education while staying at home with you if you felt like that was necessary. And with homeschool parents, again, did they choose it for a religious-based education, or did they choose it because they just wanted a smaller environment for their child? If they chose it for religious reasons, we can't help with that. We're not allowed to do that. But if they chose it due to environment, then we could help with that. Homeschool parents have to buy their own curriculum. That's money out of their pocket. We can provide that through this virtual academy. So I think those are the reasons why we believe it to be worth the effort that we're putting into it. But it is not to provide a place for existing students to transfer to. It's to provide it to parents or families that are already availing themselves of the choice that the law has given them. That's all it is.
Oh, I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. And I guess when you said the other two schools were low performing, that was my concern.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not gonna know till we get, in the
that doesn't, just like any low performing school, that doesn't mean that all the students attending those schools are not doing well. I'm sure there are students that are doing great in those schools. But overall, they meet low performing status. And so we just believe that we can provide a service within our county that is just as good, if not better, and then keep our funding inside of our county.
I have a question. Let's say that, in 2 years we have 200 students enrolled in this. and it's a low-performing school, just because, by virtue of it being, primarily by virtue of it being a virtual school.
Right.
Well, I mean, what's that gonna do, for us in our efforts to, raise our overall?
Well, I think we would have to recognize it as an alternative type school. Anytime you have an alternative school, there are gonna be different rules that apply because of the student body that you're working with and the needs that they have. And this board would have to choose whether or not they wanna treat it the same way as they would treat a regular traditional school. But if it did
But
become
in terms of state assessments and EBOS,
Mhm.
we don't have any options on how it's treated. in
Well, the
that
state
regard.
treats alternative schools differently. But in terms of like an individual, like a teacher teaching for them at BVA that was teaching English 2, they would get EBOS results. We would just have to, flag them to make sure that we as a board understand that that's a fully virtual classroom, and that is going to be a very small percentage of the students that we teach English to across Brunswick County schools.
So we have the ability to mitigate any, negative aspects of academic performance related to, that are sort of inherently related to, because you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
Only 20-30% of students do well in that environment.
Right. Well, and DPI has a different category of accountability for alternative schools,
So we can-
alternative settings.
Okay, so that's my question then. We can designate it as such. Is that gonna, take away from your ability to market it?
It hasn't taken away from the ability for the state virtual schools to market it.
Do they market it the same way as an alternative?
It's a different choice.
I mean, do they
environment.
designate it, not necessarily market it, but do they designate it as an alternative school?
I don't think those are designated as an alternative school, but when they present their numbers, they always say, they give additional granular detail on students that are enrolling in that school and then unenrolling. They tend to have more transitions of students in and out maybe than a traditional school does because of the nature of it. Parents choose virtual learning for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's temporary because of their current circumstances that then change, and then they transfer out and go back to a traditional school. It just forces you to kind of, anytime you have sort of an alternative environment that is completely different than a traditional school, you have to keep track of what the differences are. And when you talk about the numbers, you just can't compare them. They're not apples to apples, and you just have to report it as such. But yes, if this ended up being, 200 or 300 kids, and Brunswick Virtual Academy was a school unto itself with a principal, if it ended up being low performing, whether as a regular school or as an alternative school, we would just have to work with DPI to, provide the support structures that are necessary. And when we did reporting, we would have to report out what was going on at the virtual academy just differently than we do at our traditional schools. But we would have to do the same thing at an alternative program, like an alternative program for long-term suspended schools, or students that was located at a given school.
Like we used to have.
Yeah, it'd be the same thing.
And what he's mentioning, the value of this program is, I feel like, more in the eyes of the beholder. So if the board sees that the means to it outweigh the end result of certain metrics, and that it's providing a service to the families, you all and our team really behold that power of, is it something that is value added? I will say, it is an alternative in the sense that it's a choice school. It would be denoted as a virtual academy, which is why we want to apply for it. So it is a subsect. So when we're using the word alternative school, I just want to make sure we're clear and transparent about it. It is a remote academy. So it does have report cards, grades, all of the things, just like Superintendent said. There's a difference between the actual definition of alternative school. We have a program for our Rise Academy students. We don't have an alternative school setting for just them. The Coast is labeled as an alternative school because it is a school that has different factors as their metrics. Similarly, we would treat the virtual academy as such. So, good question.
So what I would say is this. If you were to go to the General Assembly or to DPI and you would ask them, why don't private schools that take vouchers of state tax dollars to enroll kids, why don't they have to take the same standardized assessments that public schools take? What they would say is the accountability is the parent's choice to put their kids at that school.
Right.
That's what they would say. And if they don't feel like they're getting what they want from that private school, or if they don't feel like they are getting what they want from their home school, then they have the ability to enroll them in their home public school, and that is the accountability. So, I would say, obviously this board would have to decide, but I would say if we got to that point with the virtual academy, then that would be the accountability piece. These parents would not be forced to enroll their kids in this virtual academy. If they were not happy with the results they were getting, they could unenroll them and enroll them in their home school, or they could homeschool them, or, that would be their choice.
And who's to say they start in the virtual and then they decide to enroll in a brick and mortar school?
That's exactly right.
And a lot of people do when they get to high school because they want to do the sports, but then you got wraparound services for certain things as that goes on.
And that would be great for us,
too.
and I think great for those students, if this became sort of an entryway to get them to feel comfortable with public schools and what's going on, and then they eventually transition from home to this to a public school setting. I mean, I think that's great for us and great for them.
And being able to play sports is a part of this.
Yeah.
So they would be able to.
Right now, I'm happy to report the pilot year. This is the pilot year for the Coast and the early college is going great. I just met with principals and ADs last week. Had nothing but positive things to say about the transition. It is transportation and all things. If they leave early is up to the family, because we can't bus them, just individual kids to a traditional school to get them to athletics. Same thing would apply, so anyone listening online as well, for homeschool, or any of our virtual school, rather, students. So this does allow you of their education, what they're getting, their attendance, their behavior, before we allow them the opportunity to participate in our sports. And this would allow them that opportunity.
Would this allow the students to take COSA classes as well, since they're our kids?
Yeah, so anything afforded to any other students is possible. I think we talked about it earlier, a hybrid model one day would be great, where you could, take mostly BVA and then still come into specialized programs. I think that's something that we would all just need to work through, because we got to plan ahead, we got registration. I will say for start of next year, not quite comfortable yet with being able to get them registered in time, but I'm not against it. It's more of we would have to really hone in, because I've got a plan for allotment and all the things.
I think that's another good way to draw students here, is that this opens up all of the stuff that Coast has for them.
I completely agree, but if we're gonna move to a hybrid model, we as a team, we need more notice of what that would require from us. And so we would kind of need to know that the board wanted to provide that well prior to registration in February, because that way we would know if we needed to expand seats, CTE offerings, that sort of thing.
Well, I'm fine with approving it as you have written. I would love for that to be available to those students. So maybe it's not available this coming fall, but
Right.
fall of '27 it could.
Yeah, and it might even, I don't want to overpromise, be available to students in the spring. I just need a little bit more landing strip before, because it is a dual enrolled school. So any traditional school student gets to take classes over there, just like they do CCP at Brunswick Community College. So it's doable. I want a little bit more landing pad so that I can plan appropriately.
Like I said, I'm fine with approving it as you have written. My opinion is that we offer them all the, if we're gonna offer them all the wraparound services, I would love to get them plugged into CTE and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, if they were to come in to play sports, it would still be in the district in which they live.
You got it. Yeah, it has to be at the traditional
Just
school.
wanna make sure we-
North Carolina High School Athletic
Yeah.
Association. Thank you for reminding, so that everyone online is listening too. They make us validate their address, so you can't just pick schools. You don't need to go BVA, so you want to go play for West and you live in North District. That doesn't work.
Okay.
We check their student address. So what's in Power School or in Infinite Campus is what we send off to North Carolina High School Athletic Association. Yeah, good point.
And I'm sorry, I keep having.
One more
go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
And then I'm done.
Okay.
But my last question is, we have to get to 150 students before we use Brunswick County teachers. Is that what I saw on the slide?
Those are actually just our own our own design. So what you're talking about, Ms. Smith's referring to this phase. This was designed from our team trying to think through scale and what it would look like. So when we say phase 2, I don't know if that's 2 years in. I don't know if that's a year and a half in. It depends on the number, but that right there would allow us to support, more people to support those kids. By the funds we would receive, at that point, we would feel more confident being able to schedule teachers. I just, at the beginning, we need the scalable size of ed options, which provides us to just sign up kids as they come in. So the goal would be, these are estimates based on what I think it would take managerial-wise.
Because we would manage when it's BCS teachers, we would manage that. We would coach them, we would have their growth data and all of that.
And that would definitely take a principal, like that would take
Right.
more administrative oversight than what the up to 150 we could accomplish that through our coordinator that we would work to.
But we would also have more control of what they're learning and what they're doing.
And again, I
Mr.
understand the
Eccles.
CTE piece, and I agree with Mr. Barger about working that in. But if it's a high school student, can they go ahead and do dual enrollment with Brunswick Community College? I mean,
Yeah.
that's already,
Yeah, actually, that's in place for
available.
homeschool students
Yeah,
now,
okay,
and
yeah.
charter school. They actually have, and our own Jamie Madron supports them.
so that's already in place.
Yeah. So they're not missing out on anything there, and a lot of those classes are remote anyway. So not all of them, but a lot of them.
Right.
And
Yeah,
my
good.
last thought,
Yeah.
I know sports is key. What about arts? Band and that kind of thing, has that been?
It's not off the
a
table, it's
thought
just,
as well?
it's
Because,
more.
you got STEM and STEAM, because all my kids were, well, some were sports and music, but most of them were music, so.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
we definitely
just-
want to afford it to them. It would just be, I don't want to overpromise all of them yet, because some of those meet during the school day. Like band, if you're a band student in high school or middle school, we have a class for it. It's physically on campus. So being dual enrolled at traditional schools is more difficult, than what we already have set up for the coast. So the CTE and all things at the coast would be an easier transition. So I don't want to overpromise that and underdeliver. I'll be transparent about it. If it's like robotics, things like that, it's more likely because those are clubs that meet right after school. Parent could get them there, they could participate in their regional school.
I'm just thinking big,
Oh, no, I love it. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we
but
just have to-
well, then they determine that they decide to go to the school, then they can be a band, so.
Right.
Just remember,
Right.
we have to think about it differently.
Right,
Because
exactly, it's not the same.
it's a choice environment. We decide what that environment looks like. The parents can choose to take advantage of it or not. So we're not required to add anything to it. Sports, I mean, we could say we're not gonna allow sports. Our argument about sports with students that aren't enrolled in Brunswick County schools is that our student athletes have to meet standards that we set and that the High School
And
Athletic
the state
Association
says,
sets.
right.
And so I've never thought it was fair for a kid to get cut from the West Brunswick basketball team so that, a kid that's being homeschooled, who I have no idea what they're doing at home, I don't know what their attendance is, I don't know what their behavior is, academics, none of it, so that they get to be on the team because, they're a better basketball player maybe. I don't know if they met our requirements or not. So the thing about this is we already provide this. It aligns to the standard course of study. So if we're gonna allow kids to earn a diploma with this, then I feel comfortable allowing them to play sports as a result of this. But, as far as if we allow them access to art or music or CTE, that's what this board will decide, but we don't have to do that. So it's a little different than thought process than what we do at our traditional schools.
Valid questions. Anything else before?
Questions? And this is an action.
So what's the next step you need? Do you
Yeah,
need some
if-
kind
if
of
you-
action
yeah, if-
today
if you-
preferably, or do
yeah,
you
if you
need
could-
to wait till the meeting?
Ideally, if you
Motion
could
to
vote, if you could
All
vote
right.
today,
All right.
that would help
Mr.
us
Barger
move
has to
make a
forward.
motion
All right,
to
Mr.
approve.
Barger has a motion, we have a
A
motion on the
second.
floor. Ms. Moffitt, second. Any other further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? All right, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank
Get
you
to
all
work.
so much.
Continue to get to work.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Quinlan, I think you are up next.
I'm sorry, Vicki, I just
That's
took
okay.
over like that was
That's
my
all right.
meeting.
Listen,
I'm
we
like,
did-
I'm sorry, I'm not in,
It was a
we're
little- it
we're
was a
not in the
little-
ops,
Okay.
we're not in the ops meeting anymore,
It's all
sorry.
right, no problem.
No, good kicked
Teamwork
off.
makes the
Good
dream
kicked
work.
off.
Okay, sorry, that one's you first.
Yeah, no, good morning.
Scratch, you have to go back and let Ms. Smith.
Good
Walk us
morning.
straight the.
No, I'm good.
So the first item is a consent agenda item. This is a contract amendment for our integrated language services contract. This is specific to students who require sign language interpreting as a related service, or individuals in the community that need access to a community school-based event. So that would be an amendment to increase that contract.
Just have a question. How many students do you have that need the one-on-one
So
sign language during the day?
I think that would be more of a closed conversation,
Okay.
so we,
All right, I just
so we
didn't
don't
know.
identify.
I just didn't know countywide.
It's a small number, but I don't want to identify any students in public.
Okay, but there are
certainly
some that need one-on-one
sign language
every day.
interpreting.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. That is correct.
Sorry. Struggling over here. That was the.
Okay. And so this is for consent
Agenda to increase the amount of the existing contract from 75 to 150,000.
Okay.
We do have 113,000 in grant funds that we applied for that help support this contract.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's good. Okay, so that'll be placed on the consent agenda.
All right, so I'm just gonna get us started, and Ms. Quinlan is gonna do the heavy lift of this presentation. But we're actually going to start with some data that we want to say has been part of the process to evaluate the things that she's gonna share. So these are exceptional children updates over, basically we've looked at the past year, and it is, we've got a lot of focus on behavior you're gonna see and processes. So one of the things we wanted to talk about was our compliance with IDEA regulations, and the work that we do on I describe it as a month-to-month basis. We're kind of on a cycle of how we implement new procedures, new guidelines, and then support them, train on them, and then monitor them. We're going to come back to this slide in more extensive detail, because we're going to dig in and look at the Behavior Support Resource Guide, which was developed, and we discussed it with you, I think it was over the summer. The draft was in place. We had it ready for our administrative retreat. It's extremely comprehensive, and we'll look through some components of that in just a minute. But what I want to do was just talk about how this actually is meeting our schools and our students in the classroom and the teachers that support them. So how we evaluated a lot of these initiatives is through using a priority student tracking process that was developed last school year. The idea is to move to a preventative model that's predictable for our school administrative teams. So this is done quarterly. We had our summer instructional meetings where we had our data pulled from the 24-25 school year, and we looked at our students that met certain criteria based on specific referrals. So office referrals for things that would be interrupting the classroom or considered dangerous in the school environment for that. So we made sure that we were pre-planning for these students for the 25-6 school year, and that all of these students had either an at-risk plan, an IST plan, a 504, or an IEP, and that there were goals and minutes for those students, as well as recommending for schools to start with parent and student communication. We know the most important thing in a kiddo's life is to having an adult in their school life, is an adult that they can trust in that environment. So one of the things we want to do is make sure that that was in place for our students and our families, that there was plans in place and supports as they started the school year. So we've just now closed out first semester, so we've had 2 data reviews. The first one was done at the end of first quarter, and it was a rollover from the summer list. We had many students that did not show up, so that meant that prevention and that first bullet worked. We had students that had ended the year being at risk for some significant behaviors that no longer were. And then obviously you have rollover of students who are no longer in the system, whether they graduated, they moved, or whatever. So then we have a new list of students that we are looking at from the first quarter and doing that same preventative process. Are there plans in place? Do they have at-risk plans? Do they have IST plans? Do they have a 504? Do they have an IEP? That's how we ensure that the behaviors of that student are being supported within the school environment. And then we just finished our first review process, which would be through all of first semester, so both quarters. And we monitored those that remained on first quarter and moving them to the next tier if it was an escalation. So in this case, if they had an at-risk plan, we may have made the recommendation that the student made to ISD. And all of these things happen at the school level, and we have two of our administrators here who can speak to the process. I meet with the administrative team and some instructional staff, and we go through these kiddos student by student. Ms. Davis?
I'm happy to talk about it. We meet once a month.
Mr. Walls, could you?
Oh, absolutely. I love talking. We meet once a month. Molly and our instructional team meets once a month, and we go through our academic and instructional plan, and then at the very end we do our review of our students who are on this list. We went through, at Town Creek Middle, we went through our first quarter planning and celebrated the ones that came off. And in our first semester, we celebrated some more that came off. We had a couple that we decided to bring on just because of what we saw the first semester. Then we meet bi-monthly or twice a month with our student support team. We have those students as our high priority list at the start of our meeting, so we discuss them first thing. We talk to our student support specialist and our team, whether we need to have them on an at-risk plan or an IST. Most of them have already been put on ISTs based on our standard treatment protocols for behavior. And then we move them, if we need to look at a FBA, then we can do an FBA through the IST process as well, or through our 504s or IEPs, depending on what the student may have. So then we do the FBA, and then once we get the FBA data back, we review it again and make a determination on if we need to put a behavior intervention plan in place. So we look at all the factors in that, but it is a process that we've started at the beginning of the year, and we've seen a lot of growth in our students, speaking at Town Creek Middle School. And one of our main focuses this year in our discipline committee put in place is mentoring. And so the students that are on our high priority list are provided a mentor in the building. And so those students do check-ins, whether it be with a trusted teacher, it could be with one of our student support teams, whether it be our psychologist or a counselor. I have a couple that I actually mentor. They pop into my office, and we have daily conversations or weekly conversations depending on what the need is. And our goal is to obviously decrease that behavior. And so we've seen a lot of great growth in that so far this year.
Just to be clear on the acronyms, a BIP
Sorry.
is a behavior intervention plan, which is going to be specific to a child's behaviors and environment to show what they need in order to try to be successful. That plan is developed based on the data gathered during an FBA, which is a functional behavior assessment, which normally takes 2 to 4 weeks of a behavior specialist, a teacher, maybe a counselor, sitting in a room and observing that student in the classroom and collecting data, taking notes on exactly what they're doing and why we think they're doing it. So we then use that information to create a behavior intervention plan, which hopefully solves the issue.
Mr. Wallace, you're principal this year.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
You were, I assume, part of the IEP process previously in your role as a AP?
Yes, sir.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
So what do you see as do you see any significant differences, any that you would say in this IEP process this year versus previous years?
I tell you, I think the best thing that we've seen this year, and Ms. Quinlan and her staff have done a phenomenal job supporting us, is we have a checklist that we go through in our IEP process, and every time we have an IEP, which keeps it at the forefront of what we need to make sure we're doing to be compliant with IDEA. This is new. We piloted it at the end of last year we made it, part of our processes this year. And it goes all the way from the beginning of the meeting, where we're introducing everybody in the meeting, making sure that everybody feels comfortable, there's adequate space for the meeting, then going into the various types of meetings you have. It might be an addendum that you have to do, which is a little bit smaller meeting, but it gives us a breakdown of what we need to make sure we go through in that addendum. And also, if we're doing annual reviews, we go through those, all the checklists on those things. That's been great, especially I think for new administrators. I've been involved with EC for a long time, both as a teacher and then obviously as the dean of students, and then also as AP. This has been great. We have a administrative intern with us, Miss Tiffany Graham, and she helps me with that in our IP meeting so that she gets experience with that. So I think really that's been one of a huge added bonus for us. I also think that the resource, and I know Ms. White's going to go over that with you, but that resource website that we have that we can go to, everything's there. It's a one-stop shop for us. I'd love to say we don't have any issues that arise with, but parents, ask questions, and, Melissa does a great job of being there to advocate for us, and I can pull those, the information I need right up from there, and then I call her or her staff, Mike. They're always willing to help. But I would say the IEP process that we have with the checklist in place now works very well. It also helps when we look back and you have to do some auditing. We do a self-auditing. And so you can pull that checklist and you can pull the IEP and you can look at the prior written notice and you can go through and see what we checked on the checklist, and our regional coordinators will evaluate our IEPs and make sure that we're being in compliance, which as an administrator is huge for me, because nobody wants to be out of compliance when it comes to IDEA. And so the processes that have been put in place for this year have been outstanding. And especially for me as a first year principal, where my name's at the top of it now, it's been great. It's been a great experience for us.
Do you, one of the things I think that we saw last year in some work that the board asked to be some analysis about our EC programs, one of the things that came out of that was that there might have been some uncertainty on the part of the LEA.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the lead local educational authority.
Yeah.
And do you see now that, do you feel like you have a better appreciation, or do you agree that maybe there was some, it seemed like the LEA has a considerable amount of authority in the IEP setting that maybe wasn't being actualized in the past? Do you feel like that there's been some new emphasis on the responsibility of the LEA?
And just to be clear, I think you're talking about the LEA representative in the IEP, not the district.
No, right. Absolutely, yes, sir. And obviously in the IEP meeting, we're a team, we make a team decision, but the LEA is in charge of that meeting. And I do think that Ms. Quinlan's done an excellent job this year. In our principals meetings, we do EC reviews every principals meeting, and to help us better understand our role, whoever that LEA is, whether it's me as the principal or if my assistant principal is acting as the LEA in that meeting, on what the role of the LEA is. And I think this year it's done a great job. Again, if you have questions, we have that one-stop shop too, where you can go look at those things. But I do feel that this year, as a principal, and I've been to LEA as assistant principal before, but I do feel like the things that have been put in place this year for just educating our administrative teams this year and providing us the support they have really has done a great job of helping us navigate that role. Understanding it is one thing, because I think we do understand the role of the LEA, but navigating that role as an LEA I think has been very beneficial this year with all the things that have been put in place for us.
That's good to hear.
Any other questions? I'll have to talk. Don't want to take up too much of your time.
I just want to recognize you for the bold choice of a purple shirt, purple tie, and East Carolina sweatshirt on camera.
Well, I thought it was
Go
a Town
Pirates.
Creek outfit until I saw East Carolina. So
It's both,
all of
right?
his favorite things are purple.
It's
Yes.
Everything's purple.
Yes.
We live purple. My money's going to ECU. My heart's at Town Creek Middle.
There
Everything's
you
purple.
go.
There's
So-
some yellow in that too. Don't they have yellow in there too?
Yeah,
there's some in there
Gold.
somewhere. But I still got some blue in me too.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Walls, and just to let you know, he has not seen our presentation, so he just brought a lot of that to us.
I was
He just-
actually reading through it last night, I'm like, okay, there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, he really brought up a lot of our key highlights that we're gonna share with you today, so I appreciate you, Mr. Walsh, taking the time, to do that. And, you know, as he's joined our principal team this year and the professional development that we do at our principal meetings and things like that, he's been such a great active participant and an advocate for all kids, so, I appreciate that, thank you. So going back to our review process that we just finished was at the end of the first semester. And so we looked at our students that qualified for our priority student tracking. And we actually moved some of those kids to monitoring because they did not have the number of referrals. And we look at multiple things, number of referrals that they've had in that time, but also when their last referral was. Because when you can say a kiddo's last referral was November 1st, and it's January 30th, we know that that's systematic change for that kid and that they are improving and responding to their environment. So that's been very fun. We actually clap and celebrate and do all these things in honor of the students that we celebrate at that point. So what does this tell us? This is basically has been our litmus test if the initiatives we're about to dig into and that Principal Walls referred to, if we're making progress. So at the end of the school year, and this is after we exited out students who were leaving, rolled students up to their new schools. So if they were a 5th grader and now we're going to be at middle school, they were added to those lists, and a lot of front loading before our summer meetings was done. And those were specific to dangerous or disruptive referrals. And we had 138 priority students that carried over at the start of the school year. So during that time, we talked about all 138 kids and what we were going to do for them at the start of the school year.
And so we have a little over 13,000 students.
We are almost at 14,000.
Almost at 14,000.
We are almost at 14,000, which is crazy.
So we're talking 1% or less.
Yeah.
And is this the threat, because that's the same number in that threat assessment piece from
They are not related at all. If that is the same number, that is really bizarre.
I think it is.
It was 138, yeah, no correlation
Okay.
between those. So in the first quarter, we chose to look at all referrals. So as we told you from the previous work, we just looked at those that were dangerous and disruptive. But when I dug in over the summer into that referral data, I felt like sometimes something was listed as a bus referral but had some other components in it that were concerns and may have had a threat assessment out of it or whatever. So we made the decision just to look at all referrals. So we actually upped our expectation and had more qualifying factors that we looked at for this school year. And it's made for a better conversation, quite honestly. We've gone through every one of these discussions, and honestly, it's been an honor for me to do this with the schools. So in the first quarter, we had 308 students that had 3 or more referrals for the school year. That's just for the school year. I will tell you, kindergarten is a heavy hitter at this time because we have a lot of kids that have come in and do not have any previous social experience that would resemble the school environment. So we have to help those kiddos get in. They may have needs that have not been identified previously. And what we really saw is our kindergartners and first graders really fell off. They were a lot of our celebrations with that. And that's what we want. Once we have them in our world and are able to spend, this almost 8 hours a day with them, we want to make that difference. So the good news is that when we move to the 6 referrals, so we'll look at 9 at third quarter and 12 at the end of the year, we ended up with a total of 274 total students that had that. So we actually decreased the number of students that were on our we call it a data pool for that time. And then we had 87 students that moved to celebrations from the previous, from first quarter. I will tell you, this is a little bit hard to math because we have moving targets. We have kids that were enrolled with us first quarter that are no longer enrolled. We have students that came to us and enrolled in second quarter. So you can't do a one in, one out when we talk about the celebrations with that because we have too much mobility with our students. We had mid-year graduates. We sadly have students that drop out, and those are all part of our conversations. But in summary, what we're really tracking for is a true MTSS model, which means our highest need students are less than 5%. That's that triangle. And at this time, I'm thrilled to report that it is 2% of our total population that was identified for priority tracking at the end of the semester based on the submissions from our schools for office referrals through the discipline process. Of those 274, 37% of them are identified as exceptional children with behavior goals. So they have minutes of service, plans in place, and then what Ms. Quinlan's going to talk about. We really, when I'm in the schools, am focusing in on whether or not there's a current FBA or a needed FBA, and then a behavior intervention plan to follow it, and then any kind of specific opportunities that we need to look at. We'll pull into ECATS, which is our information system for this, and talk specifically about these students. So usually we kind of start with this is the end, but I actually wanted to start with this so we had an idea about the impact the following things are having on our system. So with that being said, I am going to just quickly go back to the Behavior Support Resource Guide. And Ms. Bullard, if you could click that link, it's very extensive. It's a extensive, and there's a table of contents, and that we just wanted to preview that really quickly. I'll pass that on to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So what you see is the District Developed Behavior Support Services Resource Guide that is all encompassing of procedures, professional development, and resources for all of the schools in relation to tiered supports that align with the MTSS model. What we have done with this throughout the school year is provided training and support for our administrators, our student support specialists, our student services teams, so that can matriculate to the school level with teaching staff.
Excuse me, is this the online resource that Mr. Walls was referring to, or is this?
That is correct.
All right.
That is correct.
Okay.
We kicked off the Summer Administrator Institute with providing training and overview with all district leaders for the Behavior Support Resource Guide. So it is a compilation of all the district resources that align with behavior support for the district.
Go back to the presentation.
That's a lot of information. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But necessary.
In one place.
Yeah. Now, is that new? Is that a new resource that's been put together?
This is a new resource that we were able to expand on this school year. It will continue to grow as we develop those resources for our staff. And this also is what Mr. Walls referenced, the LEA checklist, and he has described that in detail from action forward. Were there any questions? Okay. We have an LEA checklist for monitoring, so we can align the completion of those LEA checklists with the meetings that have occurred throughout the district. Our regional coordinators provide that support there and review that data, so we can provide support for a school in the event that they need some assistance. Our EC Teacher Task Force, which is comprised of our EC chairs, in addition to any of our EC teacher volunteers, we meet monthly as a teacher leadership team in our district, and they have worked together to devise the EC buddy audit process. We used a focus group that was from that core group of teachers, and then we took it back to the task force, and they finalized the buddy audit process, which is linked in there, which helps our schools learn how to review and audit those records and work peer-to-peer on compliance-related needs that are school level. So that is layer one.
Can you elaborate on the name, buddy audit?
Oh, sure. So buddy audit would be teacher to teacher, peer to professional peer. And so through this process, they would work with their professional peer to help review their records in advance. It's particularly helpful when we have new teachers who need more support with their special education processes, or sometimes we have teachers that come from out of state who need more support with North Carolina processes. So at the school level, they're charged with buddy auditing our EC chairs were responsible for taking this back to the school level and creating this system with their schools.
Is this some kind of accountability thing?
It is part of accountability. It is. It is about how we work together to ensure that our IEPs are well developed and encompassing student data, generating goals based on data so they can be very student specific. So it's a school level piece of accountability to support that IEP process at the school level.
How many are they required to do a month? I can't remember.
So it depends on the meetings. So what we want to see them do is when they, prior to having that IEP meeting, use that buddy audit process in advance so they can get feedback with their drafts. What we would like to see them do is being proactive as they review those IEPs together to make sure that they have all of the parts. Those IEPs, as we know, are very extensive. And so if there's enough preparation in advance, then those meetings can run more smoothly and it supports our parents better with that process. We have our EC teacher coaching checklist. Our regional coordinators work with our newer teachers, or our teachers that are new to the state, or teachers that just generally need support in coaching items to help them and support them with those IEP processes and procedures. And then we have it mapped out throughout the year so they can learn those processes and then they gradually graduate out. The regional coordinators have office hours that are available throughout the week, so if folks do need support and assistance, they can call in and log in and ask for additional help, or they can schedule at a convenient time for them. Story, you might have to make that one visible. Thank you. So in the behavior resource guide, one of the pieces of information that came up as a need was helping our schools understand that manifestation determination process for IEPs and for 504s. And so we developed a flow chart to be able to support our LEAs and our staff that are working through those particular pieces with a flow chart to be able to help them so they would know step by step what to do. And then the next page is for 504s. Which is very similar to students that are identified in special education. And this is, again, in the behavior resource guide as well. Okay. At the beginning of the school year, we offered mindset verbal de-escalation training to all school staff. That was arranged in conjunction with the principal. The traditional schools and transportation participated in this training in August, and early college high school staff participated in September. We offer mindset the whole entire training throughout the school year on professional development days and during different times throughout the year where we have work days. Some schools receive that individually depending on when new staff arrive.
Ask you a question. As far as SRO training for de-escalation, they have separate training that they get, or do they avail themselves to this, or do you have that? Is it kind of?
I'm gonna have you speak to SROs.
I'm just
I was gonna say,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I have to.
No, that's a good
Add
question.
a layer.
Yeah, that's great. So they do not participate in any of the hands-on component of mindset.
Mhm.
The verbal de-escalation, they can participate with their staff that they support when they're in attendance on those days. And then one of the things that we asked them to do, and it was kind of part of our process with our interagency agreement that I brought to y'all a couple months ago, is when we are in a mindset moment, and it's the physical restraint specifically, we ask our SROs to be witnesses. They have body cameras and support us in that way. So they're more of an observer, and then they can be kind of also monitoring the student through that process. They do not get trained specifically. They have their own yeah, they have their own state training that's specific to
Different physical intervention.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
May.
The
So that's
the
the
next
year.
step.
Training.
The
Yes,
next step.
but they
Yeah,
are,
so-
the actual verbal de-escalation, they participate in with their schools with staff meetings as they're available. Sometimes when we have professional development time for our teachers, they do professional development with their staff, but it's always something that we can do. We've been talking, we have a safety meeting coming up next week, and we'll talk about needs through that for our SROs, through the collaboration with our school principals, which is next Thursday.
The SROs go through a special certification. Don't they, there's a special SRO certification they'll go through, plus CIT. I mean, they're well versed and well
Right.
trained and,
No, I know
They
that was
do
the
not
case, I just didn't know
participate,
that
yes,
specific.
you know, we're first
Course.
with students unless
Right.
there is a danger to a staff member, and then law enforcement is involved.
We certainly want to try to keep it within the realm of the school
Sure.
as much as we can, but it is very helpful to us that they have body cameras, and if they're there and that's on, you know, that protects everybody,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah,
That's a good,
that's really
okay.
good.
We do have 8 in-district trainers. Our behavior support team are all trainers in mindset. And how do we classify services? So some of the ways that we provide the classification of services, Mr. Walls talked about that. As you'll see, our Student Services PLC team meets twice a month with our administrators in order to work through those students that have that identification of needing support. Per this process, we do have a rubric that we use for our students that are on the priority tracking sheet. In addition to, this process looks at any additional students that may have those risk factors that our Student Services team needs to work with. All of this also is noted in the behavior manual. We have an EC audit checklist, and we've talked a little bit about this already. After the buddy audits take place, we also have a district level audit procedure. Jennifer James is our current regional coordinator who handles compliance for all 20 schools. She utilizes the checklist to be able to monitor student records and then provide support back to schools. We made some revisions to our behavior intervention plan form. We included all the tabs for safety intervention plans, crisis intervention plans. We added the bus, because sometimes the bus is a place where we need some support, as we know, so we can ensure that we're supporting our bus rubric. We also developed a coaching, fidelity and coaching notes. So our behavior support staff work with our teachers and general education and special education for behavior intervention plan implementation. They assess the situation, they assess the intervention plan and the fidelity of the implementation, and then they're able to provide coaching feedback and some of those supports. The IEP meeting minutes were updated. Our assistant principals were instrumental in this process. We have revised the IEP meeting minutes to flow more fluidly with different IEP processes based on the type of meeting that they are having. We have received positive feedback with these updates from our teaching staff and from our assistant principals and our principals. We implemented the functional behavior screener this school year as part of our IST process in order to have a way to screen students that are in IST to be able to identify and prescribe a plan to address their needs in order to be proactive. Our school psychologists are the ones that facilitate the screening for that IST process. And then how do we help support students that are in a variety of placements? We started providing a monthly administrators training in 2024. These are a variety of the topics that our administrators have experienced. And then the 25-26 list, we have been focusing on the behavior resource guide and looking at tiers of supports from core to supplemental to intensive services. Our EC Teacher Task Force this year wanted to focus on our EC teacher assistants and the provision of support for them in professional development. So we kicked off EC Teacher Assistants as instructional leaders this year, and these are the training topics that we have provided on district professional development days for our EC Teacher Assistants that have targeted and supportive of their needs, all the way from disability awareness to instructional practices, understanding IEPs and how to implement them. We continue professional development for our EC teachers, and these are the topics that we have provided thus far this year. Coming up in March, we are going to have an administrator strand for EC Back to Basics and ECATS for administrators. And then district PD that we continue to offer is, of course, Mindset, Initial, and Recertifications, Youth Mental Health First Aid, which aligns with our district strategic plan, Darkness to Light, and we do have a community resiliency model trainer, which is one of our behavior specialists, and we offer that training as well. This school year, we developed an instructional standard treatment protocol for special education that aligns with all of our district resources. We included them and linked in all the resources that we have in one location to be able to provide support for our teachers across the district. We have monthly EC announcements that go out at the first of the month, every month, that provide celebrations, instructional resources, data updates, and any special education updates and due dates that are need to occur throughout the school year. We've been very fortunate this year through grant funding through federal programs to have an EC instructional coach that supports our schools that have been identified as low performing in the category of students with disabilities. We have a coaching template that she utilizes, which is linked in here. We identify those staff through work with the principals and assistant principals, and she provides that instructional coaching in those classrooms directly with those individuals that need that support, including teacher assistants. We have our monthly PLC master template, our coordinators, which are Ms. Webb and Ms. Brown. They have 10 schools each. They are our coordinators of instructional support. They meet with each school monthly to review data and provide support and training on EC topics. We have an EC walkthrough process that is utilized with our administrators. We have walkthrough documents that align with the general education walkthrough templates to be able to provide coaching and support for our administrators as they are assessing instruction in EC classrooms. We also have fidelity checklists for our EC instructional programs for Connecting Math, which we've just re-rolled out, Math 180, Inspire, which is for reading. You will see our EC Elementary EOG celebrations from this past school year's data. Those are noted per school where there are celebrations. Those are also found in our EC monthly announcements. We have our data for middle and high schools where we have our celebrations there as well. This allows us to calibrate where schools need more support or don't need support.
And just to reiterate, these are celebrations specific to the EC subgroup from these schools?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Very specific to EC compared to state EC data.
Okay.
So when we note we exceeded the state level performance, that is specific to the rest of the students with disabilities demographic in the state.
Especially in CCR.
Yeah.
Yeah,
College and
absolutely.
Career Ready.
Yeah. There were some exciting results there this year. And then our EVAS close that are specific to EC. Those are noted there.
So it says all traditional elementary schools. So how is it specific to EC?
That's a good question. So we had Town Creek Elementary fifth graders at Town Creek Middle School. So all of our traditional elementary schools, so when we take out Town Creek fifth graders, all of our traditional elementary schools met or exceeded growth. Our fifth graders at the middle school did not.
I'm just trying to understand.
Sure.
So these are,
Yeah, so,
you
we
can
had,
separate EC.
yes, we
Yes.
could, yeah, we have the
Yes.
So
ability
this
with.
is strictly the EC subset for these.
Yes.
Yes,
That's
yes.
correct.
So there were 10 schools that provided fifth grade math last year, but one of them was served out of our traditional environment, which none of us, loved and wanted to have. And we're very glad to have fifth grade back at Town Creek Elementary. So the other 9 schools all met or exceeded growth in fifth grade math in the category of EC, or students with disability. The only fifth grade group that did not was the cohort that was being served at the middle school at Town Creek Middle.
Great.
And then how do we gather feedback? We do put out surveys throughout the school year. Our EC Teacher Task Force is the presenter of the majority of our surveys because they take that data and they use that data for district planning, and we use our teacher voice to support us as we implement district initiatives. So these are all the different surveys that have been produced in the district. We allow them an opportunity for an anonymous survey as well. We really didn't get a lot of response from that, but we did get good response from those that the EC chairs facilitated through the task force. We did provide some surveys mid-year to look at our adaptive program, and we also gathered administrator feedback to allow us to continue to plan. And we put out a mid-year needs assessment that will allow us to start planning for next school year. We will be getting ready to push out our round of spring surveys to plan for next school year through our task force shortly. Some of the common responses that we received were the EC teachers do appreciate those paperwork days that are above and beyond. Some of them throughout the district noted they appreciated their staff relationships and the communication, collaboration, and support. Common needs that we found were support for implementation of instructional programs and behavior management. And then we also have a parent survey, and we take a look at that data from 2020 on, and we look at compliance indicators that are EC specific, and then we gather satisfaction data, and these are real life examples from our parent survey data. DPEI, starting last year, requires that we push out their survey for what we call their Indicator 8 data gathering, and we have to post that survey from January 6th to June 30th now, and then they report on that data to us once they have compiled it.
So is that a separate survey that they send out?
Yes, ma'am. And we have reached the end.
You might have covered it, maybe you were talking about it. You said something about 37% of this group were EC students. I don't remember exactly, but so what are we doing in terms of moving EC children out of EC services? How effective are we at doing that? How at low, at advancing them to like a general ed?
To exiting the services in general, or exiting or moving to a least restrictive environment, a lesser
Well, where they're
restrictive
not
environment.
considered an EC student. I mean,
Okay,
they may
so
still be on.
So exiting services, yeah. So we refer to that as exiting services. We'll pull that specific data for you all of how many students have exited, but it is done through the IEP team process when they are reviewing the goals and the progress towards the goals. So that's data that we can provide to you specifically on how many students have exited. And then we'll try to drill in, because obviously most of our students are identified exceptional children for academics. Behavior is a very small part of our population, as we talked about here. So we'll try to also separate over the past year how many have exited for academics and behaviors. It is the goal, of course, always for us, if a student is making that progress, to move towards that and keep closing the gap for them over time with that. But that decision is made by that IEP team. We also do have parents that occasionally choose to stop services, and we can kind of separate those as well.
Some refuse to have them at all to start with.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, occasionally we do just live in the IST part of the process that we talked about in here, because that is just part of our regular school procedures, and does not require parent permission, because it's just part of our MTSS framework, which is for all kids.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and assume I'm the only one on the board who's currently a user of EC services, since I still have kids in elementary school here. I will say in the last year, the process has dramatically improved, that we've navigated with my youngest daughter. So I just wanna thank Molly and Melissa and the rest of the staff at our schools as well, because, this whole process can be a bear. It's challenging as a parent.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot.
And, the changes that have been made in the past year, I think, have been beneficial. And I just want to thank you guys, because I think that navigating this personally for my family has been a lot better.
Well, we appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, I was just gonna summarize by saying, over the last year, a massive amount of work has been done by Ms. Quinlan and her team. And we've done almost a complete reboot of how we do a lot of our work. And it has created a whole lot of changes that are directly related. We didn't necessarily embark on this for the purpose of making those changes, but it became a logical next step as we were doing the work. For example, you know, we were getting a lot of kids getting assigned to the coast. The RISE program, which is our long-term suspension alternative program at the coast. And we were actually doing functional behavior assessments and behavior intervention plans for those students when they got to the coast, which really doesn't make sense. It should have been done at the school where they were assigned. And so we've made that entire switch now so that it works the way it should. We took our regional EC coordinator positions, and we switched duties to capitalize on their strengths. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. You know, we found that some of our coordinators were, I mean, they're great at everything, but some were better at the coaching aspect, and some were better at the compliance aspect. So we've reworked duties for those regional coordinators to capitalize on their strengths. And on our Brunswick Build Initiative, providing much more and better PD to our EC teacher assistants, better prepares them for the opportunity of our teacher assistant to teacher scholarship program, so that hopefully we can grow some of our own EC teachers for the future out of that work. So I just wanted to say that I've never been anywhere that's done that amount of work in 1 year. So I think Ms. Quinlan and her team really deserve a lot of credit for all of this work that has been done. And the fact that it's all posted in a way that all of our principals, as Mr. Wallace said, now have a one-stop shop reference documents for how we do everything.
And I did want to highlight this is really the evidence of this. These things were in different places, and that was the first thing that we identified, was that we had to bring everything together. It was too hard for people to find where things were. We were kind of using a hub, and so we really compiled it in through all the work from all the teams. And so thank you for that.
Is this publicly available too? Like, can it be access to the website or? And the reason I'm asking is, one thing that I know Molly and I have talked about numerous times is, I'm on the school board, so I know a lot of the behind the scenes workings that go on, but for a lot of the parents out there, and even for me, I've had to call Dale and Monica and ask questions because I didn't know certain things, right? So I think this being publicly available helps parents understand the process, the resources that are available, because there's a lot of folks that just don't even know where to start or how to access it, and I think this is a good.
And just big picture, this has allowed us to move the work closer and more to the IEP team at the school.
Yes.
Instead of it sort of over time sort of migrating more to the district, this has allowed us to push things back to the school level and the IEP level where it belongs. And then we as a district only get involved in the most extreme of circumstances, really when it's necessary. So,
Ms. Bourne, do you have any experiences in the past year that, I mean, at your school?
I think in seeing the changes and through the whole framework of looking at our priority students, it allows us to provide services in a more streamlined way and much faster for students who need those support services. So, kudos to Molly and Melissa for everything that they've done.
And efficiency was a big part that we noted before, so hearing that,
And I'll step out on a limb to say that my daughter is a new classroom EC teacher, and she has been very complimentary to me about the instructional coach that has been with her, because she's having to now learn classroom behavior management, which she has not, done for, she's been in the system for 10 years in another role, but now being in the classroom, it is a whole different ball of wax. And she has been very complimentary to me about the fact that there's been someone there with her to guide her with those with those children, because they're having to learn her, plus middle of the year, just a lot of little things. But she has been very glad to have that support.
And that's a big recruitment and retention strategy for us, for
Right.
EC teachers.
Right.
so we're glad to have Katie in the classroom.
Yeah. I think just one last thing that we've really tried to connect this to other things, and I was trying to, I don't know if I'm gonna find where it is, but the standard treatment protocol, still, is another accomplishment, which basically talks about all of our resources, and we've really been looking at the interviewing process and the hiring process through that, and we have something that is an all-in place that comprehensively shows everything that's going to happen within each grade span. And so I do want to say that we look cross department at these opportunities, because our teachers, when they interview with us, need to know what that expectation is, just like they do for general education. We have curriculums we use, and it's the same thing with this. And I think this is we had so much to share today. We kept it brief, but there was so much detail in all of this that is powerful that multiple teams can use.
So our principals now can develop interview questions for EC teachers based on this information, because we want to hire people that have the same values and goals that we have in our district. And if we can find people that have already been trained in the curriculums that we use, then that's less time we have to spend before they're ready to go.
And I will segue on Mr. Barger as well. I did have a child with an IEP 8 or 9 years ago, and I didn't even know at the time what resources were available, and I was on the school board. So,
Right.
but when you don't have the need, you don't know. You don't know what's out there a lot of times. And so it was, somebody said, well, you can have this testing done. I said, never heard of it. So to know what is available, I think is a big thing. So
It's an
that's
overwhelming
good.
process.
It is.
And it always has been, and it will continue to be, and it's a hard one for families.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, being on the board for a while and also being a former teacher, I'm amazed at the progress in a year of what you've done.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you could share this with other districts, but you should. Because,
As a model.
yes, any school district would be so happy to be able to use something like this.
It's a lot of work.
It is, it's a lot of work.
So I would agree with that, and that'll be the goal moving forward.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a lot of presentations now on our student attendance framework, as well as our new math curriculum rollout, because of the results that we're seeing.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to see the same thing with this.
And how wonderful for our kiddos that you serve.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did have one question about the survey that you sent to teachers. One of the things that they had requested was additional PD and help with behavior. What are we looking at for behavior management on the common needs? What, do we have new PD coming? Is ABA ever going to be an option? I know I've asked that before, but so many of our kids, I remember from being a principal, that so many of our kids in our AU classes had to leave to go to Wilmington and have those services there. And I didn't know if that would ever be an option in our school system, or if if that's in our realm.
So that is an instructional strategy. That is a systematic teaching approach, and we do provide that training and support for our EC teachers. Mr. Shepherd, coming up on the March PD Day, is going to be doing best practices and working with students with autism. We did offer that same training and support on our November PD Day as well.
And that's ABA training? Or?
It's best practices. So
Okay.
there are a variety of approaches that you use when working with students with autism. Be it teaching joint attention, ABA systematic approach to response to that instruction, So there are a variety of things, communication boards, first then, visual schedules. So all of those strategies that are all encompassing, we provide that training and support for. So to just say we use ABA, every student doesn't necessarily respond to that instructional approach.
Yeah.
It's kind of like teaching reading.
Right.
So you have to find that approach that works for that student.
And I just reviewed all the presentations, all of them yesterday for November. And Mr. Shepherd's particularly did stand out to me. So I will push that to you this afternoon so that you can look at an example of that. It was really impressive and I think is another compliment to this work. But it is something that any of our behavior specialists will be able to provide for a school base. You know, obviously we'll have people that'll self-select into it, but it's something that we're going to be able to utilize long term, and especially in training at the start of the school year. He is a very gifted behavior specialist, and we are fortunate to have him. And this presentation is a real demonstration of the work he does with our teachers and our students. So I will push that to you this afternoon.
And when's the next PD day that you'll be there?
March 3rd.
March 3rd.
And we will be at Cedar Grove.
Yeah, so anyone is welcome to it. It's really, he's a dynamic, he's really special.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. You're welcome, everyone. We'll see you in 5 minutes. And we now have Miss Jen Damon going to talk with us about phonics programs.
Yes, good morning.
Good
This morning I'm going to share with you some information about why we're talking about the phonics adoption program, and then the instructional level input that has been provided to look at phonics programs, and then ask for the next steps from you and what it would look like after board approval. So the reason why we're talking about it today is ties to two things: legislation and our strategic plan. Our strategic plan, goal 1.1, requires that we have the adoption of core curriculum for all state tested subjects. And phonics is included in DIBELS 8, which is our K-3 state assessment for reading. We also have legislation in our Senate Bill 387, which says that we need that high-quality instructional materials aligned with science of reading. So historically, we've been using Letterland for our core and intervention in K-3. This year, Letterland released an updated version. So we presented that information to principals, and we asked them to take it back, talk with their teachers, and bring back some input about what our next steps should be. So the choices were, do we purchase the updated Letterland program, or do we begin a formal phonics program adoption? 80% wanted that full phonics program adoption. So then we went into our board policy, which was recently revised this past fall, and noted the two things. The one thing was the need for that top performing teachers of phonics to have input. And then the school leaders and district leaders most connected to literacy. The other one was the presentation timeline of 6 months before implementation. So all of that collected leads to today's date of sharing this. So when we looked at our top performing phonics teachers, we're very excited to share that there are 64 current phonics teachers who met a growth index of +1 or higher on last year's literacy EVOS. That, to meet growth, falls in between that negative and +2. This +1 growth index comes from whenever we think about wanting highly qualified teachers for summer reading camp. The Office of Early Learning says when you're first looking for teachers, look at their EVOS data, and anyone who has a +1 growth index or higher, try to get them to teach summer reading. So we thought these are our top performing teachers that we'd love to have the input from. So we had 64 teachers that we wanted to invite to have input on this. So in December, we sent invitations to those 64 teachers and to our school administrators and central office administrators, and said we're going to offer 2 Google Meet sessions that's going to share why we're talking about phonics adoption processes, specifically the phonics instructional level curriculum committee that's in our board policy. So on December 16th, we held those 2 Google Meets. For anyone that could not make it, they had all the information. We could talk back and forth about it. So they still had the opportunity to get the information and be a part of the team. So on December 16th, we celebrated our K-3 phonics teachers who had that +1 growth index. We went over our board policy 3100, specifically the instructional level curriculum committee input, and then shared those main responsibilities to be a part of that. One, helping us determine a short list of phonics programs that they're most interested in teaching and using with our students. The next is helping us to create a survey that we could then use to look through the phonics program. The teacher-facing materials, student-facing materials, what's on the digital platform. So all the questions that we could possibly ask to review our curriculum. Then we said if they would be on the team, we'd also love their leadership at the school level whenever teachers are reviewing the curriculum, just to be that guide on the side. And then, of course, when professional development is rolled out, just to have those teacher leaders there to be mentors and to help with that. So we gave that informational session, and then we asked them, would you like to commit to be on it, or are you unable? We know that our teacher leaders are leaders for many things. They're mentors to our VT teachers. They're on SIT. They're in MTSS. And we know they have lives outside of school too. So we didn't want to assume that they all wanted to join this if they were already busy supporting in other ways. So we initially set a timeline for interest by December 19th, but we've extended that past the winter break through January 13th. So 32 out of the 64 teachers joined the phonics ICC team. 7 out of 64 said they were unable to commit, and then 25 did not respond to that. So here's the list by school of all our top performing teachers who wanted to join this work. We also had 5 schools that met or exceeded literacy growth in kindergarten, first, second, and third grades last year. So that from those 5 schools, those principals were invited to be on the team as well. And then we had 4 central office educators. We have our 2 instructional coaches. Courtney Beecham taught phonics in kindergarten at Town Creek Elementary before she became a coach at Jessie May. Liz Schmidt is our coach at Lincoln, but prior to that, she taught at Bolivia, and she taught 3rd grade phonics. And then, of course, we have Dr. Karen Baker. She teaches reading research to classroom practice, which has information on reading research and best practices. She's done that for many of years for us. And then our Department of Public Instruction Early Literacy Specialist, Miss Adriana Sly, to have input on that as well. So with the team's work ahead of us, we decided to look at all the phonics programs out there that would meet that high quality instructional material definition, that science of reading definition. Plus, we wanted to see what are other school districts using. So to look at that high quality instructional materials, we used the site EdReports. EdReports looks at the programs and they look at it in 2 ways. Gateway 1 is they look at that program to see how does it align with research and our standards. Gateway 2 is all about usability. What are the resources for teachers and what are the supports for students? So then, so as you see there, we listed all of the programs that EdReports has for fully meeting those standards, with the exception of Wilson Foundation's partially meets. From that, then we looked at.
Can I answer just?
You sure can.
Seems a curiosity worth asking about. They only partially meet, but they're one of the most widely used in the state. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
So one of the reasons they partially meet, for example, for their kindergarten resources are showing how to blend and decode words, and the reason why they partially met is because they didn't have enough practice built in without bringing in supplemental materials for that skill for kindergarten.
Okay.
But is a very systematic program that meets in other areas as well.
And it's been around forever.
Mhm.
Is probably one of the reasons.
Do we know the outcomes of the districts that are using, kind of, going off what Mr. Gainey was saying? So out of the 3 most widely used, do we know the district outcomes and scores based on that?
So there's a few things that we don't know about it. First of all, we know that they're using this curriculum because it's listed on their district literacy intervention plan, but we don't know the fidelity to the use of that to know if they're using it, every day for core, or if they're using it, as a supplemental. Like, we're not sure of the overall implementation. As far as for the data, we would be able to pull 3rd grade data. We've tried to pull that K2 DIBELS 8 data and have not been able to have that data pulled.
I would point out too that the second most used is UFly. That also, I think, is the newest offering available. And it's also the cheapest offering available. So, I mean, there are lots of things that impact usage as well. That isn't to say that it's bad, but I think those 2 things do factor in, especially if you're in a district that is really short of funding.
Well, then I see letterland, which we already used, so it's, is there a benefit to using like programs as opposed to bringing something totally different?
So some of the benefits to using a program that we're already using and just using the updated version is less professional development because a lot of components stay the same. And then that equates into like a kindergarten teacher who's used to teaching just the instructional routines of Letterland. When they start off in August, they already know that to automaticity, whereas with a new program, you're learning that new program and some instructional practices with it.
And I would say, sometimes, after a while, staleness can become a factor as well. You just get tired of using the same thing, or the kids get tired of using the same thing. And just from an engagement perspective, sometimes you just need to go in a new direction to retrain everybody. And for the kids to see something different that maybe they get a little more excited about. I mean, that is a factor as well.
Well, and I would assume that we were looking at our data thinking that maybe something else might help us be better.
Well, we've got pretty good results in K2. Yeah, it's just, I think, looking at the data in third grade, we feel like there might be some things missing possibly in our phonics program in K2 that is causing a problem maybe in third grade. But our results in K2 are actually pretty good. So as far as relative to the district average.
To the state average.
I mean, I'm sorry, the state average.
So what we narrowed down from this information are those 6 bolded curriculums that we see at least one or more districts using and that has information on ed reports. So in January, between the 6th and the 16th, we gave the instructional level curriculum committee, teachers, school leaders, district leaders, a survey that listed all 6 choices. And there were 2 main questions on that, plus some other areas to provide feedback, including, are there any other phonics programs that you know about that weren't listed here? So for the 2 main questions that were asked, one was a question with all 6 curriculums that said, yes or no, do you want to review this curriculum? The second question took all 6 curriculums and asked the teachers to rank it from their first favorite to their least favorite. So for both of those questions, UFly and Reading Horizons came in the first and second place flip-flop. So they were both first and second choices on those. Foundations and Letterland came in third and fourth for those. So then another survey was given, which 36 out of 41 responses were collected from the second survey that said, out of these 4, what would you like to have as the top 3 phonics programs to look at? So UFly and Reading Horizons scored 33 total points, Foundations 26, and Letterland 16. So with that, we have ordered in the UFly, the Foundations, and Reading Horizons materials, and we have them set up here for your review. And we would like to ask for you to review them, to think about this information. And we're seeking school board approval, whether it's at the March 3rd meeting or maybe on March 3rd you need more information, just let us know. But asking for approval to move forward with that district-wide review of those 3 programs. And if that's something that you would do, then what we would do immediately after that would be get those same materials that you have here to look at into all 10 schools, and to include demo sites so the teachers can see what's on the platform for them to use instructionally, for students to practice on, for any kind of assessment and data information. And then for each school to map through a timeline to say, this is when our teachers have protected time to look at each of the 3 programs. They would also have, each school would have a community and parent viewing session in the evening, and then of course offer it for any one-on-one appointments as well. So just thinking through, just mapping out general timelines. Once again, this is all dependent on the time that you need to take in this decision. But then having that school vetting window, and just had April dates in here for overall sharing of results back to you, but it's all going to be dependent on when the teachers would have time to review it. But after they would review it, we would bring 2 data points back to you. We would bring what all the stakeholders has deemed as their top choices, but then we would also pull out these top performing teachers' data to show what they would want as well, and to bring that back to you. So what additional questions do you have?
Question, how long have we had Letterland? How long have we been using it?
At least 20 years.
Yeah, a long time.
So I came in 13, I think that was the third year, so I think it was a 2010 was a partial, it came through a study, the district had a consultant,
I came in '07 and it was,
in some places.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's up, five?
So, in 13, I know after I think it was 12, we had when I started the consultant, I can't think of what her name was, Vicki, can you remember? But anyway, so we had, but it was an outside resource, and so it was through that process that we went through that and then moved to the full adoption.
It's been a while.
It's been a
Yeah.
while, that's why.
Yeah.
20 plus years.
Yeah.
If, you had said what precipitated this, examination of phonics programs was because Letterland did what?
They have an updated version, so they've changed their curriculum.
So we would have had to
They've
follow
updated it.
a new one from them. And had that not happened, would we be reassessing our phonics
So,
options?
we had several of our elementary principals that wanted to take a look at what other options were available for phonics programs as well. So it
So this
wasn't.
it isn't just in response to that?
No, it is not.
Change.
We had several of our elementary principals that, these two things happen at the same time, but they wanted to explore some other options that were out there. And at the same time, Letterland had a pretty big update, so it was just a perfect time to do this.
When I can tell you from having used it for many years, kindergarten responds very well to Letterland. They don't always transfer the letter sounds with the letter. So Vicky Violet, that one comes to mind. You know, they know
Talking
that.
Tess.
Yeah, talking Tess, kicking king. Sometimes when you say, what sound does K make, they'll say kicking king instead of the actual sound.
Yeah.
So that doesn't always transfer, but the only other thing I ever noticed was that, you know, in kindergarten, we got what we needed out of it for the most part. In first grade, somewhat. Anything beyond there, they tend to think it's a little babyish. You know, they didn't respond or receive it well in second and third grade where I was, but.
Yeah, and as I said, I think that aligns to, I mean, as I said earlier, I mean, just from a data perspective, the results we've gotten in K2 specific to phonics and fluency have been good. But I think the question that these principals had was the transition of the skills that were being learned in K2, and then, you know, the standards change in third grade, and or they change at every grade, but in third grade in particular, they just felt like there were some newer, more updated options out there that would not only help us meet the needs of K2 students, but better prepare students for what was required in third grade through fifth grade as well. And so because of the update to Letterland's curriculum, this just worked out as a great time to really, we wanted to take a look at our entire literacy block, our 90-minute sort of literacy block in all of our schools. So this was a great place to start. And just for the public, several months ago, the board approved a change in curriculum adoption policy that moved board approval sort of from the end of the process to, not the beginning, but close to the beginning of the process, so that the board could have an opportunity to look at the content of the curriculum to ensure that it aligns with the value of the community, with the values of the community in Brunswick County. And so that's the reason why, you know, we're bringing this presentation now, or Ms. Damon is bringing this presentation now. We've gone through the process of picking out 3. We've got the room set up for the board's review. We've set a tentative goal of the board maybe taking action at the March meeting to approve those 3 so that we can then release all 3 of them to the teachers to begin the review process, because we'd like to implement it in the fall. However, if the board feels like they get to a week and a half and y'all feel like you need a little more time to look at it, we could extend that to committee, but we would just ask that there be a a sense of urgency about making a decision on them by, at the latest, the March committee, just because we need time to get the materials ordered and give the teachers plenty of time to review it before they select them.
So what process did the teachers use to get from 6 to 3? Did they have materials to review?
They had the ed reports information, and a lot of them were already saying they wanted U-Fly. It was their personal input of knowing what's out
So
there.
from them
and
just
looking.
investigating on their own?
Yeah.
And remember, these were all teachers that were +1 or higher
Yeah.
in EBOS, so.
And we had asked them last year, we had asked all of our teachers last year about phonics curriculums and language comprehension curriculum. So this has been ongoing discussions that principals have led at their schools.
Well, we're doing great work in CTE in the upper ed, but they've got to learn to read
Definitely need our
earlier
babies
than
to
they're
learn to
reading.
read, yes.
So this is, I think,
Definitely.
integral to what
And as soon as
lay
possible.
the foundation for
Yes.
everything else.
We
so.
definitely need readers by the end of first grade.
First grade, not third grade.
Mhm.
Not third grade, first grade,
Right.
yeah. I agree.
Right.
Somebody call the state.
That's the state thing, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Any
All
other
right.
questions?
I
So
guess
we'll
we got to
review
go do
that.
some reading.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
here's
just-
the homework.
The room is set up back here. You're welcome to come anytime, whatever time works for you. But we would love to have an action item at the March regular meeting for approval. If you're not comfortable making a decision yet, Mr. Gainey, of putting that on the agenda, you can just let me know if we need to push it back to committee.
Well, I mean, I think we can put it on the agenda. If we need to take it off, we will, but I think I think there's no reason to, think that we won't be ready then.
And to be clear, we need to let the public know when the timeline it would be. This is not something that would start next year, or it is?
Oh, no, it would start next year.
It would?
Yeah, we want to implement it in the 26-27 school year.
Okay.
The phonics program.
The phonics program, okay.
Yes.
The new
Okay, Mr. Ben, you're up.
Hi. Good afternoon, I guess.
Mr. Ben.
Oh. So this is just pretty much a renewal of what we're already doing. So this pertains to the Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern North Carolina. They right now provide after-school services for us. We're in the renewal season of MOU, so this MOU kind of acts as a renewal for the beginning of the school year for their after-school services, but more importantly, their summer camp. They do a summer camp at Lincoln Elementary School every year. So to be able to market that, we need to renew this MOU so we can start marketing that. And a reminder to the board, the Boys and Girls Club receives grants from the federal government, so they offer after-school care summer camp, no cost to parents. So it's a beneficial service for the county. So this is an action item that I'm just asking for you to approve.
Okay.
Action or consent?
Action
yeah.
for today?
Yes, for today.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Mr.
Second.
Barger, second by Mr. Gainey. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So approved. Thank you. And then I think at this time, the board will
Make a motion to go into
make a
closed
motion to
session.
go into closed session.
Second. She made the
She had a
Second.
motion, Mr. Barger had a second, and all in favor?
to approve personnel.
Hold on, I gotta unmute it. Are you ready? All right, I'm muted.
I make a motion to approve personnel as written.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I guess that was